then the Germans happened. And that was
that was the perfect thing to go live with.
I'm pretty certain we've got it down to a fine art now. So. But it's either going to be that or, well, the doctor had to pull it out.
And that's why I'm banned from Costco.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was definitely just about to go into hello and welcome then and start doing introductions. And this isn't my podcast.
It isn't your podcast, no.
I was half tempted to suggest that to Andy, that maybe one of us should go into it and pretend it's Steve. Or maybe we do a hi and welcome to 2/3 Focused.
I must admit, that's one of my favorite things about because we've obviously done the takeover episodes for Fools with Tools, where the girls took over and then the boys took over, and that kind of like hearing other people pretending to be us and just doing the same, like obviously as a kind of like a mockery of what we do. It's so much fun. It's so cool, and it's really nice hearing that. Hi, Caro. Hearing that thing. I keep forgetting that this is an actual podcast, not just a hangout.
I mean, it's basically both of the same things together.
Yeah,
it's a hangout that people can listen to later on.
Yeah, but yeah, it's really nice, like listening to that, to other people's take on what we do, and the same kind of silly mannerism. That's not the word. What's the?
Well, it's people being a caricature of you guys, isn't it? An audio caricature.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. I find this really. I know, obviously, we're recording, so we should. But that's the thing. So this is what I find weird. It's the fact that this isn't a structured chat. There's no topic. There's no, and I'm like, right. So
you're not the first person
to
have had a bit of a meltdown in the first few minutes of the fact that we don't have an agenda.
Yeah,
and that is our agenda. Is no agenda.
It's weird. So why? So I was thinking about this earlier on, right? So why do you do this podcast? What is the purpose of this podcast for you guys?
It is entirely selfish for us to hang out with people we like.
Yeah,
that is exactly the reason. Is Andy and I wanted an excuse to hang out with people that we like, have a natter, and know that other people might take it slightly more seriously or slightly less frivolously.
Listening as well.
No,
by listening in.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking about it, and I genuinely thought it was either that was going to be your answer, or you were just going to say we're doing it for fun, and like that's it. Like that, its purpose is enjoyment.
It's that as well.
Exactly
I mean, if I kind of go back, I mean, this slot used to be Makers International.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, quite a few years, Sunday evening was Makers International, hang out with my friends in the chat, listening to some guys talk sometimes as well.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of kind of
very, very deliberately phrased.
And it's just a great way to end the weekend and get ready for the week.
Yeah.
And when they announced that they were giving up, and then I think it was just a couple of weeks later when Reclaimed Audio, they decided to quit as well.
It was a couple of hours after Makers International announced their thing. You shot me a message going, "Oh, I need something else for Sunday."
What you doing on a Sunday night?
Yeah, it was.
I love it.
And it's just an opportunity to have a chat. I think all bar one guest has been somebody that we have known for a considerable amount of time.
Yeah.
Varying amounts of time, but a considerable amount of time. Or people that we've spent a lot of time talking to. And so, just an opportunity to actually, it's an excuse to talk to them.
Yeah.
It's an excuse to kind of have people on and say, because nowadays, kind of just phone up, have this, can we have a chat? It's a great thing to do, and some people do it, but actually kind of to have a format. Would you like to go on our podcast?
Yeah.
Sounds a whole lot better.
That's the thing, is it's much less creepy to say to someone, do you want to come on the podcast, rather than just, I know we don't really talk, but do you want to just chat for an hour or two?
That's exactly it, because if you say to someone, would you like to have a phone call for 2.5 hours? They generally go, no.
Yeah.
I'm a bit too busy for that. 10-minute chat maybe.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say to someone, "Would you like to come on the podcast?" It'll be however long you want to chat for, and then 4 hours later you're still chatting to them.
And the other thing is so like we again without constantly referring back to Fools with Tools, like the one we just recorded, it's exactly that one. We so you can't do that because
are available.
Yeah, you're Al now. And also you can't keep doing that because this is an audio thing. It'd be like me showing everyone my mug and how cool my mug is.
That is an epic mug.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? And the listeners at home, the listeners at home, not
and like you've never done that on your podcast.
No, never.
But the advantage with us is the listeners at home can, if they want to find out at 5 minutes 40 seconds what Steve held up, because I'm not going to describe it. You can go and have a look at the YouTube video and have a look, because the YouTube video will be there.
Yeah, and
you're the professional
with the show notes.
Yeah, you're the looks. What was I talking about? So we were talking on the other podcast. We were talking about the fact that it's been a very long day. I've kind of slipped into that manic episode bit. We were talking about social media and the way that people interact and the kind of pressure to interact and how that can be really detrimental, and the fact that it can really cause a lot of anxiety. And I said one of the things that's happened recently with me is I think it's fairly well known that I really struggle with the month of November. There's a lot of stuff that has happened in my past that always seems to happen in November, and just as such the month tends to be quite difficult for me. That, and you couple that with like seasonal affective disorder and stuff like that, it's
clocks changing.
Yeah, it's just it all kind of hits. And especially with the new job, with the job now, the fact that we, October, November, December is fucking manic.
Really busy,
yeah. So it like there's a lot of stuff going on. So the last couple of weeks, I've had at least 10 messages in my Instagram inbox unread at all times, if not more, because I've just got this weird kind of anxiety about responding to people that's just appeared out of nowhere. And it's the same with my Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp to a certain extent, where I'm not replying to people. I'm not opening the message because I don't want to open it and forget about it.
Leave it read, yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, I feel bad about the fact that people can see that, well, I've obviously been online. Why hasn't he read my message? And a lot of it is just because I don't have the mental capacity to be able to respond to it properly in the way that I want to respond to it, and wanting to actually give that person, whoever they are, the time that they deserve in response. And one of the things we were saying is it's really difficult to have a proper conversation over text. There's a handful of people that I actually talk to regularly through text messages that get my undivided attention. And even with them, generally, it's whilst I'm scrolling Instagram or 9gag or watching something on YouTube or whatever. It's very rare that it's completely 100% undivided attention, and that only works if we're both free at the same time. And anyone that knows me knows how rare it is that I'm actually sat down concentrating on one thing. So yeah, that kind of conversation doesn't happen very often unless you jump on the phone and have a chat like this, which is like especially for the I think I don't want to cast broad strokes, but I think for like the millennial generation and those following.
How very dare you?
we don't phone people. Like it's
no.
Genuinely only been since getting these wireless headphones. Many brands are available, but it's only since getting these and being able to have like them plugged in and be able to talk, basically have a hands-free set, that I've actually started phoning people semi-regularly. And normally it's just whilst I'm out walking the dog because I'm already doing something else. But I really don't like the idea of just sitting at home on the phone. I really struggle with it. But having these has meant that I've been able to do that. But even with that, there's still only a handful of people that I will actually phone regularly to have conversations with. Even friends of mine from real life, like they have to
in the meat space.
Yeah, they have to remind me and be like, Steve, we haven't spoken in like 2.5 years. Can you just answer your fucking phone, please? I'm like, yes, I can. I'm going to be free in like 3.5 weeks. Does that work for you? And if it does, can you just message Jamie and book it in? Because
do you know, we really do need to set up that shared calendar. I think so I can officially become your PA.
It's scary how much.
Well, I mean, Andy's mine, so
yeah. To be fair, that the group chat is such a useful thing because it's really good because I can go in there and be like, what am I doing this weekend? Or guys, can someone remind me about this at about 4:00? And someone will remind me.
Yeah, I mean that
is usually Jamie.
Yeah,
usually yeah, because I exist everywhere simultaneously, as a few people have pointed out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean for the insider, I was going to say the insider trading. It's not insider trading. Insider knowledge, I suppose, is Steve, Andy, me, Red, and Jim are in a WhatsApp group, and it's just
and none of you
way. Is it what?
I said, and none of them are invited. It's for us.
Exactly. It's our little sanctuary away from everything else, where we can just insult Steve in peace, basically.
Fucker. Not when I'm taking a sip. Tee up my nose now. Yeah, basically.
I think you're right there. I mean, for me, getting on the phone is I hate getting on the phone.
Yeah.
The only person the only person I will actually sort of ring up is my sister.
Yeah.
And I completely forget to do that so often. I can't remember the last time I spoke to her. It's probably in this, I think, once since the summer.
Yeah.
When I saw her. I remember usually when I'm either doing something like this where I can't, or it's kind of it's like 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
Or 1:00 in the morning. You think, I haven't called her for a while. Better not do it now.
Yeah, and that's why I quite like the dog walking thing, because it's something that I have to do every day anyway, and I'm not doing anything else, and I can't. It's not like I can walk the dog whilst staring at my phone because I don't really want to. I quite like being able to enjoy the area that I live in, but having a wireless headset in means that I can walk around and I can enjoy the area that I live. I can walk Murph. I can be paying attention to what he's doing, but I can have a conversation with someone at the same time. So it feels like I'm using that time efficiently. And because that's now set in my head of like, that's what I do. I will quite often, there's a few people that I'll message, be like, are you free? The trouble is what I should really be doing is messaging people in advance and being like, are you going to be free around this time? But because my brain doesn't work like that, it's just like, I'm doing the thing now. What are you doing?
Yeah, but it's like phone call roulette then, isn't it? Because it's whoever replies back with, yes, me.
Yeah.
I mean, I should say for anyone who hasn't yet had the pleasure of a random, unexpected phone call with Steve, it is beautifully glorious in the fact that it will be, a fantastic conversation, be discussing all sorts of wonderful topics, and then midway through a sentence, you'll just hear "Earth," because he's obviously out walking the dog. Yeah. So there'll just be,
leave the badger alone.
Yeah, exactly. But it'll be like midway through Steve's sentence where he'll suddenly shout that. And it's a fantastic way to keep you paying attention.
Yeah, that's all it's for. Like the dog's not even there; he's on a lead. He's fine. I'm just making sure you're paying attention. But but yeah, no, it is. It's really good, and it's good for me because it forces me to remember to do that. But I'm also very aware that a lot of people don't like phone conversations. So if I haven't, if anybody that feels that they're close to me is listening and is upset that I haven't messaged them,
dropped you in it there.
Yeah, I was gonna say just message me and say, can I have a chat? Fancy a chat? Because
when are you next walking path?
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll just forget because I'm a creature of habit. I'll message the same 3 or 4 people, and that's it because it's easier that way.
I suppose for anyone else, I suppose get in touch with me and then I'll book it in for you.
Yeah, if you could do that, that'd be fantastic. I feel like such a prima donna now, and for people that don't
Hollywood
know
Steve,
fucking behave. But for people that don't know us, are going to be thinking, "Who the fuck is this guy? What's he doing?"
I should say that for those who don't know, the background is out of the 3 members of Fools with Tools Brigade.
Hang on, are you doing a guest introduction before like half an hour into the show?
No, I wasn't going to introduce you. I was just going to say the fact that out of the 3 of you, you're the newest to my friend group. You know, I've known you the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, which is weird.
Better than you know you at times, I think.
Yeah. What's weirder is the fact, like, so because I especially people within that particular WhatsApp group, it's weird to think that I know you guys through the maker community rather than it's such a weird thing, and trying to explain it to people outside of the community, like, oh, so how did you meet so and so? I watched some of his videos online and we got chatting, and it sounds so ridiculous.
On the internet.
Yeah, I met this guy on the internet and he's really cool. But I think the reason that it's so nice is because there's always that common ground. There's a reason that we're all in this community together and all chatting.
Yeah.
And excuse me, I think it's quite good, especially within the Fools with Tools kind of community, and obviously now the Makers Waffle one and the 2/3 Focus one and everything else. It's the fact that it's a bunch of very similarly minded people that seem, that seem to have the same kind of, I was going to say values, but I'm not even sure if it's values. It's the same kind of outlook on things. And there's,
I think values do match. I think there's a combination of things.
Yeah, but even when the values don't necessarily match, it's the fact that it's maybe perspectives is a better way of wording it. So it's not necessarily that I agree with everything that you say, but I can understand your point of view much easier because we have shared experiences. Does that make more sense?
Fewer arseholes in the whole.
Well, that as well, yeah.
By comparison to normal pub folk.
I think it's a combination of things. I think there's perspective. I think it's shared experiences. I think there are shared values. Because if you think about, there are people who are, if you look at the broader maker community, there are people who don't share the values that we 3 share, for example.
Yeah.
And we might interact with them distantly, but we wouldn't interact with them in the same way that we do with each other. And they have some of the same experiences. But I think the values, how they treat people, how they just how they are based on their particular value system. I think that is important.
Way of interacting with the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's actually quite a good point. I mean, I guess it's such a weird thing because there's no defining trait, I would say, that that people within kind of our little subsection of this subsection of the general populace. There's no defining trait that we all share, other than the fact that
dashing good looks.
Well, that obviously. I mean, but you say that, but then there's people like Rasmus. And genuinely, I was going to try and be nice to him as well, and I just can't.
You're not legally allowed because now all 3 of us have got the podcast. We can just pass on that one insult between the 3 of us as it goes, and then it's like evenly balanced, and no one gets too.
Yeah.
I was going to say, have you heard today's 2/3 Focus?
No.
Yeah.
No, I haven't actually yet. Not yet.
I have.
Job.
I'm gonna have to listen to it now.
Not now. You're on this one now.
I can do 2 things at once. It's fine. I don't get easily distracted. I can barely do 1 thing at once. But yeah, no, I don't know. There is a defining trait that we all share, but I think there's enough kind of like crossovers in that massive Venn diagram of who we all are, that there's always something that you can kind of relate to. And I think that, again, that's one of the things I find quite interesting about the kind of maker community at large, is the fact that we all seem to be quite good at explaining things in a way that's understandable for the other person, whether that's something in a more kind of emotional sense, or whether it's something in a more practical sense. So, whether it's talking about like how you're feeling about something, or whether it's talking about like, well, this is how you should do this thing, and here's what's the fucking word?
Example?
What's the word? Yeah, but there's another word for example. Not metaphor. Analogy? That's the one. Yeah, here's an analogy for how to do the thing, because there's common ground. So you can be like, this is just like a scarf joint, or this is just like a mortise and tenon, or this is a what there.
Well, I suppose that's why a lot of the people in the making community are educators of a sort. It's that, like you said, it's that relatability to, getting back to like the shared experiences of being able to say, what sort of thing are you interested in? Right, okay, so here's the cogent metaphor that matches that thing you're trying to learn. It's that sort of...
Sorry, I've just seen Cara's comment.
Cara, Steve's on all the podcasts.
I am on all of the podcasts.
I was going to say, been on more podcasts than I have.
I don't know why, though. Like, I do so badly on all of them, but people keep asking me back.
It's that one every week you do on a Sunday night that's the problem. The one that releases sort of somewhere between Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah, if you've not noticed, I haven't actually released last week's yet. I've been busy. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, that was a live event, wasn't it? I think
exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a call for saying, well, if you didn't make the live event, you weren't there, and you shouldn't catch up.
Exclusive.
Yes.
For the people who love the podcast the most.
Yeah. For fans only.
That's your other one.
Yeah, for our fans only, mate. Sorry, I'm flustered now. What were we talking about? There isn't a topic. I keep trying to go back to
analogies. Educators, the circle of the Venn diagrams of this portion of the maker community.
That's barely a circle, is it? It's definitely non-Euclidean geometry.
What? Non-Euclidean? Don't what?
The Venn diagram for the maker community is not drawable in 3D space. It needs at least 4 dimensions.
Yes. Yeah. Thinking.
That's what the smell was.
Where was I going from? I don't even know what I was. I've had very little sleep, and I'm not sure I can.
Brains enough.
Yeah, I can't.
I think we were talking about how we all managed to get on, even though we do come from things in common, but we do come from diverse backgrounds.
Yeah. And even when we barely even share a language with people, like, so there's, I was going to pick on Rasmus again because he was easy, but
I knew you.
But like, there's so many people whose like,
as we've done English, the Rasmus insult, we can then slip into the second most insulted populace. And the shared common language with our American cousins. Yeah. John's already pointed out we've gone through Rasmus, so it's got to be the Americans next.
But I mean, wait, like even when someone like their English isn't even their second language, it's like their third or fourth language. Like, because I'm pretty sure Red spoke Japanese before he spoke English. I might be making that up. I might be completely making that up. But the guy speaks like 50 different languages. But like, we have the ability to be able to still communicate in a way that's everyone else has the ability to communicate coherently. I'm struggling. I do a lot of I don't know what this is, but apparently this is communication of some description.
It's an invisible Rubik's Cube.
I can't do them.
Me either.
No, I don't understand how, because the middle one doesn't move. It doesn't. I don't. It just it upsets me.
The trick is to either take all the stickers off or pop all the cubes
Spray it.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah, just spray it. So.
Yeah.
Oh shit! You just reminded me. I've got something sat outside that I spray painted this afternoon. That's still out there.
Is it a Rubik's cube?
No.
Oh. Sorry. I also keep looking at the chat just to see if anything's going on, and
it doesn't help that all of our friends are in there giving us shit.
Yeah. Exactly. Bunch of gits. But I was
rightly so.
Yeah, obviously. I was going to ask you guys a load of questions because I don't like being the one being asked questions because I just want
Steve. Well, this is exactly it. There's no agenda. We don't do questions. We only have one question,
which is
for you, Steve.
Okay.
How's the bathroom?
Oh, fuck off. The bathroom is fine. I've got a toilet and a large
a large sink.
Yeah.
I functioned in your bathroom last week. That's
exactly
good enough. It works.
Yeah, it's
it is a bathroom.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing. That's
long-term project.
Yeah, well, it's because I've got to get actual people that know what they're doing, and that requires making a phone call to someone that's not one of those 4 people that I phone regularly. So it's going to get
professional podcaster, Jamie. Yeah, he's gone full circle back there onto the phone call.
It's what they call a callback. That's what I was going to say. So because obviously one of my first jobs was working in IT. I say one of my first jobs. That's a complete lie. One of my earlier jobs. I was working in IT and I was on the help desk. So frontline support. I had to speak to people every day and have a headset on. And that was fine because to be fair, even that, it took me a few weeks to get into it. But after that, I'd be fine. I could phone anyone with a work-related query or question, no problem whatsoever. But if I had to phone someone outside of work, hated it. It's weird. Mm-hmm. I didn't like it. But I remember my manager wanted to introduce a more professional demeanor to the way that we spoke to the customers. Remembering the customers
wear ties.
No, they tried to get us to make us wear ties for a little while, and it didn't.
Did you come in
work.
With your head?
I may have done. But the other thing is they tried to get us to wear ties, but I also was wearing a hat, because I've worn a hat since I first started working in pubs. I've always worn hats, just because my hair gets in the way. So even when I was in the office, I was known as the guy in IT with the hat on, because it was easier than the long haired guy, because there was 3 of us with long hair. But so I had to go in a shirt and tie. So I had a shirt and tie and a trucker cap on or a flat cap on, and be like, well, no, you can't make me take it off. Go away. And yeah, the whole tie thing did not last long at all, because I basically was like, right, are you going to pay for the uniform? They're like, what? I was like, well, I've got one tie and one shirt that I wear to weddings. Why would I buy more clothes to come into? I'm not going to go on that rant because I'm very angry. What was I saying? Yes. So they wanted us to be more professional and all this, and our customers were the people that ran our trade counters. So it wasn't like we were talking to external customers. We were talking to people within the business. And rather than being just what I used to do, which is hello IT, I was supposed to be
like, turn it off and on again.
Yeah, exactly. It was supposed to be good morning or good afternoon, depending on the time of day.
That's long enough. Just saying that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, good morning, welcome to company IT. This is Steve speaking. How can I help you today? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll definitely say that. Phone rings. Hello IT. And then get an instant message from my boss being like, Steve, you got to say the thing. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, definitely say it. Hello, IT. And after about 3 days of this, she took me to one side. I was like, Steve, why aren't you saying the thing? I was like, because nobody cares. Nobody cares. The people in the trade counter just want to get their thing fixed. They want to phone up and say, can you reset my password? They don't want to have to listen to me saying 30 seconds of, hi, haven't I? And no offense to John, the rest of them I don't care about, but no offense to John, but I was like, we're not Americans. We don't need to be really nice and polite over the phone. We can literally just ring up and say, hello, yeah, all right, done.
Hi,
That's
IT.
it. Yeah,
They know
exactly.
they've reached the right place.
Yeah, that's all they care about.
Yeah.
They don't care who I am. I'm just IT guy. I'm not Steve. I'm faceless drone who fixes their password. Or
Yeah, I've answered your call and you've reached the place you wanted to be. That's all they care about.
Exactly.
Is,
and
am I allowed to speak yet and tell you
Yeah.
what's wrong?
Yeah, and that's what I said to her. It's like, you're talking about it like you want us to do this, that, and the other. But I was like, you also want to increase efficiency. We're wasting time by doing something that doesn't matter, that nobody cares about. So yeah, I got away with being not lazy, but being grumpy by being like, yeah, it's more efficient to just say IT.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a guy that I used to work with years ago, back in sort of like site management type days, and he'd just get really, really bored. And because he was one of the engineer types, he wasn't really answering incoming calls very often. It was just any calls that were forwarded through to him. So he just got bored one day, and an external call had come through, and he just picked up the phone with Ubi, as he would do when he got bored.
Yeah.
So it was literally just like Ubi, and unfortunately, the other end of the call was the managing director of the business, who was calling from his rather large mansion in another country, and recognised the voice. It's like, who be I be? I be the managing director. So if I was you, I would improve my phone manner if I don't want to be down at the doll office. Sorry.
Nice. Like that old joke about the guy on guard duty on an army base and having the general come up and him being like, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? No. Well, fuck you then.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was getting distracted by people in the chat again. And John, I didn't mean like Americans being just polite on the phone. I just meant just Americans being overly. It's like, because this is one of the things that me and Jess actually had a very long conversation about. Jess Feder. They're a lovely girl. What was he saying? Yes, the whole fact that in America it's called the service industry, whereas over here it's called the hospitality industry, because hospitality can easily be withdrawn. If you act like an asshole over here, you're not going to get served. Like the way that that people are treated in the service industry in the States is fucking disgusting. And yes, there are people and places over here that will tolerate that kind of behavior, but generally it's just not. And I think like that's, I don't really know where I was going with this, but that's one of the things that I was getting at with the
it's interesting, like one of the it's the old sort of trope thing, isn't it, where everyone sort of says, oh, the customer is always right. And like a lot of but this is the thing though, is a lot of stuff that to make a sweeping generalization, there's a lot of stuff that gets half remembered or half passed on.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things, one of those perfect examples, because the original quote was that the customer is always right in matters of taste. And it was specifically related to, like, if you're buying a couch and you go in and say, they're only black and brown couches, I want one in fluorescent orange, that those people selling you that couch, and it's your decision to make your couch that color. If they could make it that color, that's your taste, and that you are completely right if that's the color you want.
Yeah. But
if you walk in and say, I want 50% off this because I'm the customer and I'm right, that's just you being a dick, because that's you misunderstanding the whole quote there. It's if you've got a taste matter that you have a difference of opinion on, it doesn't matter because you are right. But you don't have the right to then just be an arse to someone.
Yeah.
Because you've misremembered a quote or never been taught the full quote or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a You know how to set me up. But it's true though. Like, and it's this whole thing of the customer's always right. No, the customer's not always right. The customer's an idiot. The customers come to you because the customer can't do it themselves. Like,
Especially in terms of IT stuff.
Yeah, I genuinely, and I'm pretty sure I've told you this story before. I might have told it to more people. I probably told it to Multi because apparently I've already said everything to him.
But he knows everything anyway, so it doesn't matter.
He does. He's such a fucker. Yeah, I once had a person phone me up who was very, very angry that Word was broken, as in the Microsoft program Word was broken.
Because you, for you and for me, Word is generally broken.
Yeah, pretty much.
Words.
Yeah. But it's because he was typing away and nothing was appearing on the screen. And I was like, doesn't sound right. So I kind of logged into his computer. I was like, right, just try typing something. It's like, right, okay. And just highlight what you've just typed. And he highlighted it and you could see it. He was like, well, why is it not there? I was like, just go to font color. Yep, that's white. That's why you can't see it. She's like, oh, well, I feel really stupid now. I was like, yes, I'd imagine you do. But he was fine with it.
I've got loads and loads and loads of those things.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing: is he was fine with it because he was like, he was a bit annoyed when he rang up, but not at me. He was just annoyed. He was like, "This is so frustrating," and sorry, I keep looking. I've got to close the chat window in a minute.
It's probably a good idea.
I'll still get distracted by something, Andy. Don't worry.
Probably just our faces.
But yeah, he was annoyed about it, but he didn't get annoyed at me. Whereas we had another manager of one of our stores who he had an issue, and the other guys on the team were trying to get a single piece of information out of him to fix said issue, but he wasn't giving them this bit of information. Every time they asked for it, he would just get annoyed, tell them that wasn't his job and that they just needed to fix it. And they were like, well, we can't fix it without this. And part of the reason that they weren't getting anywhere is because I'm not going to name names, but the other guy that was taking the call was being very polite. And he was like, well, very sorry, but we do need to get this, and we can't really do anything without and sorry, terribly sorry. And I was like, just hand him over to me. And I was like, let me deal with him. And so I picked up the phone. I rang him back. I was like, shut up, Caro.
Steve.
So I rang him up and was like, hi, I'm Steve. I'm going to be taking over this call for now. I believe you've been speaking to one of my colleagues about this issue, and he's been trying to get this piece of information. Are you able to provide that? I've already told him I haven't got time for this. I need to get this. Right. Okay. Firstly, if you swear at me again, I'm going to hang up the phone and you will not get this fixed. Secondly, we need this bit of information to get fixed. If you're not willing to provide that, there is nothing further we can do with the call, and we will close the ticket stating that you've not provided the information. You will then have to explain to your area manager why you have not been able to take any money for an entire day because you couldn't hand us a simple piece of information. It is that simple. And it was great because then he was just like, well, I
can't be bothered to go and get the piece of information for you.
Yeah.
That's what he means.
It's that simple. And he was like, well, I don't know how to get it. I was like, right, I can walk you through the process of getting that information, but you have to be responsive. Like, you can't just say, I'm not doing it. And then...
Did you not need your thumb a bit closer to your ear, though, to hear him properly?
No, because I've got the headphones in the way, so I can't.
It's just the mic. It's just the mic bit.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care what he says. I'm just telling him. It's really hard to stay on track. What the fuck was I going to say? But yeah, so that was like, but Stuart, but unnamed colleague was... Sorry, I can beat Pat's fine. He's not going to listen to this.
Yeah, beep. There you go.
Yeah,
Beep.
thanks.
Yeah.
But he was mortified. He was like, Steve, you can't talk to someone like that. I was like, yes, you can. Exactly the same as down in the call center. If someone starts swearing at them down the phone, they just say, no, sorry, I'm not dealing with you. You can either speak to a manager or I can hang up the phone. That's your two choices now. Like, it doesn't matter what industry you work in. You're still a human. you're still entitled to be treated with respect. And if someone is not doing that, then you shouldn't. And that goes to the maker community as well. If you're making or selling a product and someone is making unreasonable demands, it's perfectly okay to say, okay, I don't want your business. That's a perfectly fine response to say. Like I've genuinely turned around to someone and not sold them or said to them, I don't want to sell you a class because I don't want you on my class. I don't want you to come on my course because I think you'll be disruptive and you're obviously not listening.
It's entitlement, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, it's really it's a really kind of empowering thing to do as well, to realize that you do have that right, and there's nothing they can do about it. If someone's acting like an arsehole, you can say, no, you're an arsehole, I don't want to deal with you.
Yeah,
like their money is not worth your mental health.
I think that in itself as a realization is, well, empowering is exactly it. You know, it's that kind of sudden step forward when you go, hang on, actually, no, I am worth more than this. You know, I don't deserve. You know, I think in part, I think that's what, you know, the last 18 months has kind of done for large chunks of the working population around the world. You know, we're sort of realizing it's like, hang on a minute, is it really worth my time to go and be shouted at by a manager for 60 hours a week for not enough to live on, or, you know?
Yeah. Well, you look at the amount of people that are now working from home and the amount of people that have been told that they need to go back into the office and have said to their company, you need to justify why you need me in the office or I'm finding another job. And people are walking out in droves because there's...
I was reading an article today that...
you can't read.
Hey, dude, it's my name.
Fuck yeah.
But it was a Google employee who they've basically been told that if they decide that they don't want to come back to the office, they take a pay cut. But currently, COVID restrictions are saying that they can't go back to the office because they've put the survey round to basically say, when restrictions are lifted, who wants to stay at home?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, if you tick that you want to stay working from home, you're going to be taking a pay cut. So this Google employee is like, well, hang on a minute. We currently can't go back to the office. But you're basically saying that if we decide we want to not go back to the office, you're just going to automatically dock our pay. So where does that leave us? So he's kind of at this point, he's a high-level developer, and he's at the point where he's sort of thinking, well, maybe I'll just find somewhere else to work.
Maybe I'll go work for Bing instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Other ad agencies are available.
But the other thing is that, like, I completely think that in-person, face-to-face communication has a huge value, and I do think that it is worth being in an office for that, but you don't need it every day. Certain roles you do. So for one of the roles that I was in, we needed to be, if we weren't in the office, we were on a hangout for our entire shift. Like, that's just the way that we were, because we had to have that instantaneous communication. I mean, we still use things like Slack and stuff like that, but you also needed that instant communication. Whereas, you know, even typing something out, it takes too long, especially if you get distracted like I do. So I've been trying to say bye to James for the last 20 minutes. I've just given up and just closed the tab. Sorry, he'll listen to this on Tuesday whenever this comes out. Yeah.
He'll tag us in Instagram.
But yeah, like there is definitely value to it, but you don't need to be there all the time for it. And there's room to say, right, okay, we'll do 3 days a week from home and 2 days in the office, or whatever, like, and have hot desks rather than having permanent spaces and things like this. We've had this opportunity to change the way that we work, and introduce more things like flexi time and stuff like that. I mean, we used to do follow the sun support because we were a global company that had businesses in literally every territory. So we were following the sun. Like, it didn't matter what time you started your shift, there was always something to do. So, you know, we obviously had to cover certain times. So our team had to do like set hour shifts. But everyone else was basically like, you can work whenever you want, because as long as the work gets done, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And I think certainly for kind of more office-based work, I say office-based work, for more sat at a desk-based work, yeah, like that kind of thing is something that is being embraced by more and more people, and more people are going, well, we have this technology, we've proved that it's reliable, we've done it for 2 years now. Why would we go back to the old way that was horrible? And there are quite a few good big companies that are realizing, well, we can save thousands a month on rental space. Like it's interesting.
Yeah.
So Andy,
electricity as well. The simple costs of heating a building. Buy a smaller building. Why do you need a building at all? Just if you need to meet together once a month, you hire a room in a hotel.
Yeah,
not a hotel room, but a kind of a meeting room.
That's a different kind of meet. But there was an article I read the other day about who was it? A company in London that were basically renting out or purchasing office spaces and doing like short-term subletting, so you could rent it for a day or for a couple of days, and it was for exactly that reason, for a load of companies that were just like, well, we don't actually want permanent office space anymore, but they're going to need a space every few months. So very much like hot desking, but you get an entire floor for a week, a month, or whatever. And I think more opportunities like that are coming up, and more things like that are coming up, which I guess that's kind of what like the maker spaces are. Maybe definitely trying to work background to the maker community. I can't help it. I need to have some kind of focus, because if you don't, I'm just gonna fucking end up over here.
I came across I was trying to keep an eye out of what's happening kind of locally. I mean, for me, that basically means in Kent, in terms of making. Yeah. Who are the Kent makers? What events are taking place, and kind of what companies are there? It's interesting. Last week I came across a place. It was through Dominic Chimere, who's one of the guys from the repair shop.
Oh, nice.
He took over the ownership of the Ranelagh, I think I pronounced that right, company, who made English wheels, and he wants to get an English wheel manufactured again in the UK and sell it. And he's got the Ranelagh name, and he's getting bits done at various places. So his most recent video, which came out this afternoon actually, he was up in Norfolk with a guy and his sons who are producing the model that would be used, the mold that would be used in the casting. So it's kind of essentially they're making what will go into the sand before the cast iron to be then poured into once the void is made.
Yeah.
But he was a couple of weeks ago. He was outside a place that was called something like Create to Make or something, and it was like space to be or space to make, or there was some sort of name.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's interesting. And I kind of sort of googled it and found out it's essentially a maker space in just outside Tunbridge Wells.
Nice.
But it's not a maker space as in, I can go and join.
Yeah.
But more, it's actually a commercial place where I could rent a bench, or literally a desk. Yeah, I can literally just get a desk in their place and just use it with a computer. There's a computer and a telephone and a meter-long desk, and that's it. You can just rent that, or you can rent. They've got something like 20,000 foot or 30,000 foot square facility. You can just get a whole a warehouse essentially of space.
Yeah.
But they've got workshops, they've got metal shops, they've got all the kit, they've got CNCs, they've got lasers, and you can rent it by the hour.
And when are you joining? Oh, not joining, but when are you going and renting the space?
Yeah, I looked at the prices. Yeah, I'm not.
Because there was a while back when I first started getting into the maker community, I was looking to see if there were any maker spaces around here, and I've just posted a link to you guys for a place called Building Blocks with a Q, because Q, and it's based, I think it's near London. I think it's in London actually, but it sounds like a very, very similar sort of setup where they've got loads of really cool gear, but it's geared towards professionals. So you'd rent it for a full day or for a week or whatever, rather than going in and just hacking about and doing whatever. And yeah, I find those kind of spaces really interesting because it's quite cool if you've got a short-term project and you want to do some prototyping or something like that, but you're not in a position where it's like you know it's not worth going and buying all of the gear to do this thing, but you know that this thing's going to take you maybe 3-4 weeks to make your first prototype to see if it works.
Potential commercial options, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really, really good kind of system of doing it. But yeah, because I looked into makerspaces around here and there is nothing. To the point where I genuinely looked at setting up a makerspace in one of the units around here, and just, I mean, I can barely organize my own thoughts, let alone a proper commercial adventure.
Glad you said that, not me.
I knew it was coming.
I'd like to do similar. I mean, for me, there's the nearest makerspace. There's a hack space in Maidstone.
Yeah,
which it's to get to is with the roads around here 45 minutes probably, and it's tiny. It's 2 rooms in a council building.
Yeah,
and they basically just do electronics. I think they've got a 3D printer, and they're mostly electronics kind of hackers rather than any kind of big physical making. There's one at the university in Canterbury, which is pretty much for students only. There's a group who meets up in Medway, which don't have a maker space. Actually, they meet at somebody's house.
Yeah,
and that's it. There are no maker space, no decent sized maker spaces in Kent.
Yeah,
and it's the most populous county in the UK.
Yeah, it's such a shame because those kind of the opportunity for, or I think that if you were able to get a decent space and create that kind of, obviously have the investment to create a makerspace, I do think they'd be really, really popular. And it's just the fact that if you do it, you need to get people aware of it. Because there was a hack space in Bristol that I didn't find out about until the week before I left working there. And I only found out a little while ago that there was actually a men's shed set up in the next town over. But unfortunately, and I don't know if this is true of all men's sheds, but it was, the people that I knew that had been there were not made to feel welcome. Basically, it was very much a case of, well, if you're not retired and you're not in this clique, then you're not welcome. Which is something that
unfortunately it's not uncommon. Some are very different. Actually, because you were in Frome today. I believe Frome has got a very active men's shed. With actually multiple sheds. Yeah, they've got multiple sheds. So they've got a men's shed. They've got a ladies' shed.
Yeah,
and a mixed shed. So they've got men just want to be together, sort of shoulder to shoulder with other men. They don't want women
just
around.
Ammunition for Rasmus.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know he's going to be saying something.
And so they've got this kind of combination. I think they've also got it set up so there's a maker space, which tends to be younger people.
Yeah.
And they do interact. So the kind of people in the maker space who kind of more into 3D printing will work with some of the people from the men's shed to kind of teach them about 3D printing or using.
But that's
lasers.
the thing. That's what the beauty of having a large, eclectic kind of makerspace is the fact that you get that cross pollination. That's why these kind of ventures are so good. That's why you would have had. That's why like having things like maker markets and craft fairs, but not craft fairs where it's but actual people making actual stuff. that's why they're so good. And I mean, Frome is such a good place to be. In terms of creativity there, like the town itself is fantastic, and the town really supports that kind of ethos. And the independent market is one of the best in the country. And from that, you get that cross pollination. You get the opportunity to work with other craftspeople, and it's kind of an interesting thing. There was a conversation I had a little while back with, it was a ceramicist, and I can't remember the person's name. But we were talking about because they'd never really heard of the maker scene as we know it. They knew the maker movement as craftspeople who were professionals and trying to sell their wares. They didn't realize that there was a lot of amateurs out there as well, and hobbyists. And we had a very long, interesting conversation that basically we were talking about how good it would be to have permanent makers, because there used to be really good places where you could go where you'd get lots and lots of craftspeople all under a single roof, and being able to do that, but being able to do it with both professionals and hobbyists. Obviously, there's got to be a certain level of separation, because if you're a professional, you don't want some hobbyist coming in every 10 minutes going, "What are you doing? Can I sit and watch? Can I do this? Can I do that?" But having, say, as you pay your rent by, you work 4 days on your own stuff, and maybe you do a day or 2 days where you have an open shop and people can come in and ask you questions and you can assist or whatever. And doing things like that, because that way your rent is then paid by you getting to share your knowledge, which, you imagine if you're doing that and you get someone that's actually really talented and takes your advice really well, and you click really well, and you can go, "Well, actually, how do you fancy giving up your horrible soul-destroying office job and coming and working for me 4 days a week, and we can both teach on that 5th day," sort of thing. Like that.
This sounds strangely familiar, Steve.
I know, right?
But that sort of thing would really lend itself to somewhere like Bristol, where you've got a load of those. Because back when I lived in Bristol, which would have been 2010-ish.
Yeah.
I forget what the name of the street was, but the one that's just 300 miles long, that goes from the Bear Pit all the way up to.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was a communal rentable art space.
Yes.
You know exactly where I mean. And it was this gorgeous building that had a load of these little studios within it. And it was very much that kind of thing of communal space where you could go and share and teach and display stuff and sell your wares and everything, all from this. It was the Toys R Us model. Everything all under one roof, sort of thing.
I've got the theme tune stuck in my head.
You're welcome.
There was a similar place down in Plymouth when I was living down there, which is going back quite a long time now. Yeah. There was because I when I was in Plymouth, I did a few years of silver jewellery.
Yeah.
Which did kind of night classes and for my at home, but I was sort of looking into the sort of the silver making, the jewellery making community down there.
Yeah.
And more the kind of professional end of things, and there was
you genuinely might have met Alex when you were down there then, because that's where he started and that's what he did.
Sure I would have remembered. I'm sure I would have remembered meeting Alex.
It's very true. I don't think I did. He's very distinctive there, Andy.
Yeah. Gigantically distinctive.
Polite way of putting it.
So there was a place down there which I never went to visit, but it was one of those kind of sort of things. It kind of appeared on the net, and within kind of scope of my investigations, which essentially was higher little studio spaces, and there were jewelers there were artists there. It was almost an artist collective in a way, with a variety of. There were ceramicists. There were trying to think what some of the other sort of skills that were there, but it seemed like a great place to kind of go to. But Just never got around to actually going.
It's really. I keep wanting to put my hand up and then remembering that we're not on a, yeah. That's fine. But honestly, it's so hard to suppress my hosting habits. But yeah, so one of the interesting things about that is the fact that that's also a university town.
Yes.
As is Bristol. Frome isn't so much, but it has a lot of it's very close to Bristol, it's very close to Bath. Obviously both uni towns. Bristol's a very creative place. It's got Glastonbury just down the road, so it's quite a creative kind of place. And I think
the southwest is actually, I think, a very creative. I mean, if you go a bit further down here, you've got Totnes.
Yeah,
which is a bit weird as well. But
but you've got like Dartington and Falmouth and places like that. And it's quite lucky because it's quite an affluent place, but it's not a big city. It's not big metropolises sort of thing. But that's one of the things I find interesting is a lot of this kind of stuff. It's in places where education is a really big part of it, and a big part of the local community, and that's where you get that kind of that desire for people to show one another, because I think it comes from the fact that if someone learns something and they're taught it by someone that really genuinely cares about the craft, they then want to pass that information on because they understand and they appreciate what that means. If you try and explain that to someone that's never had that experience, that's only ever been in business land, they don't understand it. They don't get it. They're like, well, where's the profit in that? So you're not doing it for profit. You're doing it to continue, like, to pass it forward or to play it forward.
Is that why there are not many Ferengis in the maker community?
I think there might be. Fuck's sakes. And I struggle enough staying on topic, and then you go and throw shit like that in. But yeah, like you get that kind of that desire to keep passing that on, and I think the way that the world is going at the moment, it does seem more and more like we're slowly splitting off, and you've got the kind of the kind of maker creative kind of people, and the more I don't want to say disposable focused people, but people that don't care about where stuff's coming from, that don't care about the craft or anything like that. They just want things, they want stuff they can spend money on, stuff that they can make money from, and that's it, and they're not interested in anything else. And when both of those are competing for the same resources, and I realize this is really cliched and really like sweeping generalizations, but you've got this, and I'm very much counting myself in amongst this lot. You've got these lovely, like, kind of hippie flower child people that are like, let's all share and be happy. And then these other people that are like, let's take advantage of that. And that's why it's really hard to build up that kind of community and that kind of space where you can sustain a populace of those creative people, because generally creative people don't tend to be particularly good at business. It's one of those annoying facts of life.
Yeah, well, we all tend to be quite, idealistic, and we want that utopia where we all, better each other, and everyone's happy and things all progress together, rather than
see that. Yeah, that's the thing, is we all want that, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't give a shit about anybody else as long as they're happy and as long as they get what they want. And they're willing to do that at almost any cost. And it's not something that you can just solve. You can't just say, well, no, don't do that because it's not nice, because they don't give a shit. They couldn't care less. Like, well, I don't care. I'm going to do the thing that I want to do because that's what makes me happy. It's like the whole thing about fucking everyone wanting to end world hunger and to everyone to be nice and equal. It's like, yeah, but the vast majority of people that are saying that means that you've got to eat less and you've got to give up a lot of your comforts. That's like, it's not a case of bringing
the Miss
everyone
World
up.
statements, isn't it?
Yeah, it's doing that, not that. It's
you can't just bring everyone up with finite resources. You need to, and quite often you need to scale back. Us with our privilege, we need to scale back way more than we realize, and way more than we are comfortable doing.
Yeah, and that's the thing is everyone wants to, like, we're so used to having this nice, comfy, cushy life, and that's what everyone wants to maintain. And
I think the key is probably we want that nice, comfy, cushy life for as cheap as possible.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's not drift down politics and whatever. But I think it would be
We'll be
possible for us to
dancing
maintain our lifestyle,
or
maintain the quality of our lifestyle, and raise other people up. But in order to raise other people up, rather than kind of dropping down, we have to spend more money. We have to be prepared to spend, 50 quid on a pair of cheap jeans rather than 10 quid on a pair of cheap jeans that are made by slave labour in Bangladesh or China or Philippines or Vietnam.
Yeah.
We need to spend 100 quid on a pan from a local artisan blacksmith.
Yeah.
And just not the one that Steve's hit the rivets on.
But it's such a difficult thing to explain to people that it is possible. It just means that you have to put a little bit more into it. And I think, again, this is what,
isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why the idea of this whole, like, lovely, like, make a creative utopia cooperative thing, just simply, like, that's why the vast majority of communes don't work, is because it's very easy.
No one wants to vet them well enough to piss people off.
And there's people out there that are always willing to take advantage. And it's a very sad thing, but it's true. It's the fact that there's, you almost need someone in that lovely hippie commune that's the like on a night out you get the designated driver. You need to have the designated asshole in the hippie commune that's going, no, you can fuck off, mate. You're not coming in here because you're not a nice person.
What you're saying is it every commune type place needs a proper mum and a dad. To just be the parents and do the parent things that no one else wants to do. Yeah,
pretty much. Just someone just to look after everyone else and just let them do their thing. I very nearly went on a political rant, and I'm gonna shut up.
Let's head down a different avenue.
We've been very close a few times on previous episodes where we've nearly hit down religion or politics or
That's one of the rules in the workshop is because obviously when we did the classes and that, we did a lot of we tried to create a good atmosphere so everyone could talk, and it's very free and open conversations happening around the lunch and dinner table. But the three rules were what was it? It was no religion, no politics, and there was something else. I can't remember what the other thing was, but it was something ridiculous like no Damascus,
no fronts and no tricks.
Really?
Call back to the 90s.
Yeah. That was fucking 30 years ago.
No.
10.
Like when that 70s show came out, if they were to make that now with the same amount of time difference, it would be that 90s show.
Which they are doing.
Oh, no,
but they are doing it. So Red and Kitty are going to be in it, and it's going to be the grandkids.
Oh, okay, maybe that's better then. I can
I can accept that.
Yeah. Yes. Also, Terry is right. No sports, because unless it's rugby and then sports. Oh yes. Okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
Unusual sports, but not the stuff that would appear in a newspaper.
Yeah,
that's probably the best way of putting it.
Nothing you'd find in the Sunday Sport, which isn't really any sports anyway.
Yeah, as I say, nothing from the Sunday Sport.
Is there actually any sport in those?
I've probably not.
I don't think I've ever picked one up.
The last time I saw one was probably about 25 years ago in a cab.
I was saying,
it's still even going.
Yeah, I was going to say in the front of a transit, tucked at the front. I mean, Dave keeps messaging me saying that we should talk about art, but I'm going to wait until
we've got a whole episode.
Yeah,
I was going to say there's a whole
Discussed about
episode in about 6 weeks on
Yeah,
on that.
is it?
and I
Yeah.
think
We'll remind you. Don't worry.
Okay, good. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm not good at remembering stuff.
and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Dave is one of the other guests in that group
Yes.
chat. So yeah,
Yes, he'll be on solo in 4 weeks' time, I think.
Yeah,
there or
Something
thereabouts.
like that.
yeah. I'm quite looking forward to heckling him in the group in the chat, but also heckling
Getting
him
him back is the 10.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm quite looking forward to that discussion because it's gonna be interesting.
Carnage. No,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but
Well, we've got Andy Berkey and Ali,
And
as,
Ali
well,
as well.
So
Yeah.
really,
yeah,
you're gonna have
Wait, so-
Berkey on.
I'm gonna light this blue touch paper and sit back.
For me, going, no, you're wrong. Berkey just there with his fucking goggles on, going. Bah.
Well,
Sorry,
so
Berkey.
for all of our group chats so far, we've had people on that we've had on solo. So we've got people on
Yeah.
solo first,
Yeah,
and then done that. So that's the only reason why we're having you on, just so we can drag you into the art.
yeah. I don't even know why you want me on the art one either. I think it's just because again, I'm the one that's going. No, you're wrong. You're all
Yeah,
wrong.
because you're mouthy and you'll say
Well,
what you
I
want to
think
say.
it boils back to when it originally came up many weeks ago.
Tools with Tools episode, wasn't it?
Oh shit! Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it might have been.
it's going to be a good chat. It's going to be a good chat.
It's because, like, without starting to go too much into that topic, it's because so many people they like to label everything as art, and it's like, well, no, it's not. And what annoys me about that is the fact that you detract from the thing that you're calling art, and like, so, say for example, we're talking about craft. You're taking craft and you're devaluing it by being like, oh no, it's art. No, it's craft, and there's nothing wrong with it being craft. Craft is a really, really good thing, and you should give that the same level of respect as you do with art. So you should be able to say that is a master of his craft, and that be the same compliment as saying that person's an artist. Like, and by just calling everyone an artist, you devalue the term artist. It's
I mean, that can be said for just about everything, though, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
As Al has said on that other podcast, if everything is awesome, nothing is awesome.
yeah. Although I do
And I
love
think
the word
it's-
awesome.
Me too, and I use it far too often by
Yeah.
Al's metric. I mean,
Yeah.
using it more than once in my lifetime would be too much
Yeah.
by his metric. But yeah, I think with anything that is, too much of a good thing, sort of thing. Like as
Yeah.
we've discussed before with Andy's education rants. If everyone is at uni, then no one is at uni.
Except, those little Milky Bar yogurts.
The Rolo ones for me. You can have the Milky Bar ones because they're always on offer at the same time.
See, that's the thing is,
I'll have the Rolo ones. You can have the Milky Bar ones.
I fucking love the Rolo ones, but if you eat them, you have to separate the layers. It's just a rule. You can't just go in like a savage and eat both layers at once. Anyone that does that, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. But yes, I love them, but I could only eat, say, 8, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm done now. I feel
Well, that's
sick.
the thing is they come in a 2-pack, and there's normally 2 different types. So you've got to eat the 2
Yeah.
of the Rolos and then 2 of
Yeah.
the Milky Bar ones.
Obviously.
And you've got to alternate them.
Wait, hang on. What do you mean 2? No, you've got to eat like. Anyway, yeah, I could eat like 8 of the little roller ones before I'd feel violently sick. Whereas the Milky Bar ones, I'm pretty sure if nutritionally I could survive on them, I'm pretty sure I could eat them
Constantly.
yeah, forever. Just have a
Just in like a
vat,
big squeezy tube that you just...
Yeah. That was. I'm very glad most people aren't going to see that visual.
Space gloop.
Space glue. Oh god.
It's not Soylent Green.
Who? Oh no, it was the chat. I'll shut up. I was going to mention something from the group chat and then realise that no one else would get it, and it's fine. Yeah.
But part of it isn't it part of the tendency to label things. And this is something I want to have as a topic at some point, a group chat. The kind of whole, everything has to have a label. Everyone has to have a label.
Yeah.
And there's this tendency. I don't think it's new. I don't think it's a new thing, but I think it's a thing that's maybe broken. Where everyone kind of oh, Andy, you're a teacher.
Yeah.
And you might give somebody may have a couple of labels, but you can't possibly have more than a couple.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
the labels are
What's
separate
the
rather
one
than-
thing that defines you? I don't
Yes.
fucking know. Yeah. Like I'm
You
a
are
fucking,
Steve.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's genuinely like since I was about 16, I've always just like when people have tried to describe me, they've just gone, "It's just Steve." It's because I'm a fucking contradiction. Like there are so many aspects of my personality that just do not mesh. And
I'm impressed you finished that word off then.
Thank you. But like there's this desire to be like any kind of like job interview or personality test or fucking dating app or whatever, like describe yourself in 3 words. I don't fucking know.
Not a chance.
Yeah. That's good. And it's so frustrating
Bad at
that
counting words.
not good at Ford. But yeah, there are so many. There's such a desire from society nowadays to be able to define yourself like that, and we're kind of complex animals. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there tends to be a lot of shit going on up here, and
Well,
I mean, obviously, I'm excluding Rasmus, but it's too easy. It's too easy.
you're too easy.
Yeah, well, I've been told that before. I mean, no. What?
We live in a complex. It's a complex world.
Yes,
we live in a
we're
complex people in a complex world.
That needs some lyrics.
Yeah, there we go. But yeah, like if you can define yourself that simply, then what even are you? Like
There's so
There
much
was so much-
labels.
yeah, like there is so much more to a person than 3 words. Like I would be mortified if someone described me as I'm trying to think of 3 words that even come close to describe me. Like, nice blacksmith, hairy or something. Like is that all there is to me? Like, it's
I mean,
I think
2 of those
people
maybe.
well, that's another thing actually. That's what I find quite interesting is going back to what Andy was saying about the need to label. I wouldn't actually classify myself as a blacksmith anymore because
I love that was the one that you picked up on.
yeah.
Because you are technically a redsmith at the minute, aren't you?
Yeah,
More than anything.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't even say that. I would just say I'm. I just seen Rasmus's comment saying, "Yes, you're too easy." I would describe myself as a metalworker because I do not spend the majority of my time forging. I still forge occasionally, but nowhere near as much as I feel like by my own definition I should to be able to class myself as a blacksmith. And that was something I spent a little while thinking about. And again, that's where it comes down to the labels is everyone has their own interpretation of what each of those labels mean, which is another reason why defining yourself with 2 or 3 labels is such an incredibly bad thing to do because that's open to interpretation. And
based on people's own experiences and life lessons and stuff like that. Yeah, even those definitions and those terms that people are using are ultra flexible.
Yeah, I mean, like a perfect example is if you were to say, "Oh yeah, that guy over there, he's a manly man." That can be taken in so many different ways, and some people can take that in quite a positive way. But there are so many ways that it can be taken in a really, really bad way, and restricting yourself to those small definitions, you do yourself no justice. It's such a
Absolutely, yeah.
a bad thing to do, because
you devalue yourself then, don't you? By pigeonholing yourself into someone else's definitions of your applied labels.
Yeah.
You're restricting your options and your definition of what makes it you.
Yeah, and the thing is you're going to be a different thing to different people. If you were to go around and ask 50 of the people you know, like, how would you describe me? What 3 words would you pick to describe me? Each one of them.
Most of them would be 4 letters.
Tall.
Yes, thank you.
Dark, handsome.
Yeah. But yeah, like, everyone's going to come up with a different one. Yes, there's going to be certain themes. There's going to be ones that are going to pop up more than others. But by and large, very, very few are going to appear more... fucking words. Very few people are going to say exactly the same thing over and over again. Like, and
absolutely.
And even if you ask the same person on a different day, it's going to change, because we are constantly evolving creatures. And yeah, I just think it's a really bad thing to do. I
mean, like Andy's talked about the 4 or 5 dimensional Venn diagram before. You know, and I think that applies to everyone anyway. Like you say, whether, well, perfect example would be someone like Al. Is Al a chef? He was at the weekend.
Yeah.
Is Al a graphic designer? Well, he has been this week. Is Al a vehicle mechanic? Well, yeah, he has been.
Yeah.
It's contextual and time specific. You are Steve the doorman. You are Steve the IT person. You are Steve the blacksmith. Steve the redsmith. Steve the giver of hugs. Depending on what day or what time of the day it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's entirely flexible.
Yeah. And labels don't give all meaning anyway. If you consider Alex Pole and Joe from The Forge, both could be described as blacksmiths. Yeah. But they have different backgrounds and experiences and knowledge. I mean, Joe, very much skilled in bushcraft and the like. Al has, that background from his days with jewellery. And so they have different formative structures to where they're at now. So they're not the same blacksmiths.
No.
I mean, work in the same place, and they make some of the same things.
Yeah.
But they are both different.
Yeah. And if you compare either Joe or Al to say Chris Cash, for example, completely different style of blacksmith. That's the thing, is each label has so many subcategories to it as well. And
you do realise there are a few blacksmiths in the chat and in the room as well.
I mean, well, there's John.
Red does some blacksmithing.
Yeah, I suppose Red does some blacksmithing. Actually, Lindsay does some as well. So yeah,
and Lindsay does some.
Yeah, but I think that's it. Yeah, that's definitely it. It's really hard to not be an arsehole to him, and I don't know why.
It's all right. Like he will get you back. It's fine, and he'll get me back. It's fine.
Yeah, but I don't listen to him when he's talking. It's really good. Like 2/3 Focus is brilliant because I only have to listen to 2/3 of it. The other third, I just switch off. I love the fact that there's a delay between us saying it and him hearing it. But yeah, like, so even within a label, there are subcategories. It's like, if you say to someone, I listen to rock music, right? What kind of rock music? Like, do you listen to soft rock, pop rock, punk rock, pop punk rock, hard rock, metal rock? Like,
yeah.
And it's a genuine thing.
Well, I mean, as we discussed before, like it's almost like in the same way that making a sweeping generalization, if you were to ask your granddad, for instance, how many colors there are, he would probably tell you like 6.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just laughing at John saying pet rock.
I want a pet rock.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've got mine's there.
Exactly.
I've got one somewhere.
But like, if you ask your granddad how many colours there are, he'll probably tell you there's like 6, or maybe if he's travelled a bit, maybe 10. Or the same with like how many emotions are there? It's like there's like 4. Sleepy, hungry, angry, horny, maybe.
Yeah,
that's like the 4 emotions. And again, that's over time that's changed. The same thing of like when rock music meant smashing things with rocks. There was one type of rock music, and it was either rocks or drums.
Yeah.
And like now it is a myriad of different possibilities and categories. And it's the same with labels, isn't it? Is with all of us. We collect labels throughout our lives.
Well, I mean, to not to go too Fools with Tools on you, but taste. There are 4 types of taste. There's sweet, sour, bitter, and umami. That's it.
I thought you meant as in like, I like blue chairs.
Oh. But like those are the only 4 things that you can taste. But you wouldn't say, like if you're eating a meal, you wouldn't go, oh, this is like what? How would you describe that flavor? You wouldn't go, it's sweet. You wouldn't just call everything sweet. You'd go into the nuances of it.
It's the hexadecimal algorithm that describes food.
Yeah, like there's so much more to it, and so you can't just give it one single label because it's a combination of like it's how those labels interplay. That's what's interesting. That's what defines a flavor, and it's the same with the person. Like it's not just a case of Jamie's really sweet. It's Jamie's really sweet when he's being nice to you, but he's also kind of a dick when he's being nice to you. Like, and there are so many exactly, and there are so many other things, and it's the way that things interplay, and that's what makes things interesting. It's
I wonder how many people listening to this now have just expected you to go into spiffing, and that's
yeah. But like that's how like you look at a rug. Like a rug it's a few simple strands of material, but it's the way that they're intertwined is what makes it interesting. That's what makes the pattern. If you've ever watched something being weaved, like it's how that pattern is set up and how that weaving goes together. It's the same few simple strands, but put together in a completely different way to create an entirely different outcome. And I really fucking wanted to go into spiffing then, you dickhead. It's because I'm so used to when we're recording and I'm starting to wrap up a point, I've got Brett and Al sat there going, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. It's really
off-putting. We all do that when we're listening to it as well. But it's that point where you go, ooh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
But the thing is the only reason you know it's coming is because I start trailing off and start taking even longer between words.
No, because it's the only point where those two don't interrupt you. And I fully realised that I interrupted you to say that.
But like they're doing the thing, and I'm like, you're putting me off. I can't construct my sentence now. I'm gonna go round in fucking circles for 10 minutes.
So here's a question: is spiffing a word that you were using regularly before the podcast?
No. So this is.
It wasn't you that came up with it, was it? It was Rob.
It was the 2 of us. Because we were sat there and we were talking about the podcast, and because it basically it's down to the fact that originally the podcast was going to be a British take on the maker community. So that's why we were like, spiffing, jolly good show, what, and obviously that's kind of developed over time. But yeah, it is purely because we were like, what's the most English kind of British word we can think of to mean good or nice or whatever. And
Definitely spiffing.
Yeah, spiffing just works. And what's fucking brilliant is the Americans being like, the hell does this spiffing word mean? And like them like slowly, and then there's people that do get it, and then there's people, and then there's Brett who says things like, the person that I'm gonna spiff on. I'm like, no, Brett, don't say that.
No, yeah, but that's a British culturalism that he's unaware of.
Yeah. It's like, that's too close to something that you really don't want to say. It's not a nice thing to do to someone unless they ask.
Get your vowels right. Get your vowels right. Get your vowels right. But it's a very similar sort of thing, because there was a discussion with that on, I think, Reddit or one of those type of things, where they were saying about it's like a word order. I think it was a conversation between, I think it's like an American guy who'd gone over to Germany for a bit, or like a foreign exchange student type of thing. And it was basically there was an American person learning German and a German person learning English, and they were trying to use, British, or not Britishisms, but Englishisms, and throwing in the word "fucking" into a sentence. And they went to say, "I fucking love you."
Yeah.
And this is to a friend of theirs, and they, because of the word order being wrong, they said, "I love fucking you." And this friend of theirs just sort of went,
thanks.
"Very well done, but we just need to swap these two words around, because it really drastically changes what you've just said."
Yeah. Because there's that that thing, and I can't. This is a really bad story because I can't remember exactly. I have a lot of things where I can remember part of a thing that's really good and relevant, but this is why I'm good at Googling.
You remember the tune, just not the words.
Yeah. But this is why I'm good at Googling, because I can be like, what's that thing where it's do 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 do, and
that's why you're in IT.
Yeah,
Darude Sandstorm.
It's always Sandstorm. But yeah, like, what was I saying? Yes, so I can remember a thing, but not the whole thing, just part of the thing. And the thing that I can thing is like the fact that you can take like pretty much any sentence in English and add the word "fucking" in a different place, and it completely changes the meaning. Yeah. And that's what I love about the English language. It just works.
There was a brilliant thing with that, was it like an English lesson or something, and they split the class into boys and girls, and then got them to put the comma in the sentence. And I forget what the sentence is, but people will find it, or Andy will find it. And it was one of those things where you could put the comma in any point in that sentence, and it would completely change the meaning of the sentence. Pause for the dramatic effect while it is,
because I remember that as well, and it's really because it's also about the where you put the emphasis as well.
Exactly that,
yeah. So it can be like
helping Uncle Jack off a horse.
Well, exactly,
yeah.
Capital letters and commas.
Yeah.
I mean, now we're dragging the other aspect of John D. Harvey into the chat, because we've dragged him in as a blacksmith, putting his other label on him, dragging him in as a rightist, which I'm sure he will love that as a term. Cue insulting comment in chat.
We're placing emphasis in this sense.
Yeah, we'll do it, Jenny, later in the week while Steve's looking up the sentence where you can put a comma in any place. I would urge audio listeners later in the week or in the future to go back and look at the chat on the YouTube, which will stay there.
Because it's going to be worth it.
It's very much so.
Yeah, I've been trying so hard to read it, but I just keep getting distracted, and the only ones that I catch seem to be either James being an asshole or Rasmus being an asshole. Although he did actually just say something kind of nice, but at the same time still an insult. So I'm going to stick with being a dick to him. Dan's here as well. Dan the Duck. What was it? Yeah, I can't find the sentence. I can, but it's going to take you. I'm going to give up.
I've put it on my notes. I'll find it before the show notes go up.
It might appear in my head before the
well, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Is I might just
let your subconscious figure it out.
I don't know, and I'm just going to let the what are they called? People. I'm going to let the people. I've not had much sleep today. Last night. Anyway,
that says it all.
So I get really distracted because I flick around on tabs whilst I'm talking because I can't do a single thing at a time. And I do this on a lot. Yeah, I do this on a lot of podcasts as well. So when I was on the Toby Fire and Steel podcast a little while back, Toby was massively impressed with the fact that whilst he was talking, I was still talking to him. I was still answering questions, but I was Googling something at the same time. It's like, how the fuck when did you do that? I was like, I've got two monitors. I did it there. But I obviously opening up different tabs because it's a big monitor. It affects how you
fluoresced.
Yeah, exactly. And because I've got everything on dark theme, like generally it's quite nice dark lighting. But then you open up a new lighting. That's grammatically not correct. Yeah. But like open up certain pages and it just like obviously bright white and flushes me out and makes me look really ill. So I'm so vain and I get so distracted by my own. I'm like a parrot. I get distracted by my own reflection. So I have to. I've got a what's it called? A search tab opened up that I've just put amber in. Because that's quite a nice, like, soft light to light me with. But the thing is, every time I do it, like, it's got suggestions along the top of, like, other things to do with amber. It's always like Amber Heard. I'm like, no, why would I want to know?
Don't Google that.
Yeah, I just want amber. So yeah, top tip for you: if you're recording something, just Google amber, and it gives you nice face lighting if you've got two monitors.
Or if you've got a really, really cheap, crappy webcam. Like mine, you're pretty much stuffed.
Yeah.
And hence my shiny white nugget.
It is quite impressive. Like from this angle, I would think that you waxed that. But having touched it, I know you don't. I really hope someone takes that out of context. That
will be the audio clip that is sent to you in perpetuity.
Well, I can't remember who it was, but someone's already decided they're going to make a GIF out of me doing that.
Or was it that? Or it could have been any of them.
I've actually got plans. It's not something I've done yet, but I download Maker's Waffle myself every week, but I haven't listened to a single one of them yet because by the time I've done it and then kind of edited it or not, or just picked into it, I don't like listening to things twice.
No.
But I have this idea. I was thinking of doing this when I was doing the Thoughts on the Tinkerich podcast, which might come back at some point. Of taking a snippet out of each podcast, just that one little phrase or a sentence, and turn it into a shirt. Nice. It started. The idea started back. I think it was one of my first Thoughts on the Tinkerich, and I was recording it in a car park while my kids were at some event. I was doing my dad's taxi, and this idiot in the car park with an exhaust that was far too loud, drove past. And I kind of just sort of commented about, it must be some form of compensating for something.
Yeah.
And it's just perfect. And somebody commented on it as well. Then it kind of sent me a message. It's just like, that'd be quite a nice little kind of thing on a t-shirt or a sort of sticker or something. But a t-shirt would probably be better.
I really like those kind of little out of context quotes. That's why on the other podcast that I've already mentioned too many times, like that. Like when I was doing that one. I could never do that.
Just point directly to it.
Whenever I do like the edit on that, I genuinely don't know if the other guys do it as well. What?
Just like it edited.
Yeah. But I genuinely don't know if the other guys do it as well because I don't actually listen to the episodes, even when we're recording them. But I always take because we I set the thing recording whilst we're still talking about stuff. And I always like to take just a completely out of context sentence. And it's normally something that Al says and just put that as the intro. And I love it because it's that thing where you listen to it, you kind of go, wait, what? Where did that? What were they talking about to get to there? It's that whole thing of like starting with, and that's why I got banned from Costco.
Well, that's exactly why we chat, we waffle, we have a conversation. I mean, we peeking behind the curtain, we tend to start waffling at about 9:15 our time.
Yeah.
And then we just hit record at past, so you guys can all join in. And then we end up waffling after we've buggered off as well. So there's been times where like me and Andy have been still like decompressing after a chat until like 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
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 It's such a nice thing. I think because that's what I quite like when I do calling back to the beginning. When I do have those phone calls with people, it's really nice when they go on for hours. Like especially in the summer, I've like walked Murph and then gone and just sat in the garden for another hour whilst finishing this conversation, just because it's been a really good chat or whatever. But they're not something like stuff like that isn't something that you can plan. And like I've had it before where I phoned someone up and it might be the same person that I've had a really good long conversation with, and if that kind of spark isn't there, it just kind of peters out and it's like, right, okay, well that was a fun 10 minutes. See you later, I guess. Like if the conversation just doesn't go anywhere, it's like that whole thing of being. And again, I realize I'm referencing the other podcast again, but we were talking about it earlier on. Like if you're sat around in the pub,
that's something that you do every week. You're allowed to reference it. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, the conversation we had earlier on, we were talking about the fact that if you're sat around with your mates, generally someone's sat there with their phone out all the time, and how distracting that is, and how you didn't used to do that. Like I can remember. I mean,
I can remember that there was always one mate playing Snake.
Well, yeah,
always.
Yeah, but like I can just about still remember a time where everyone had a phone, but it wasn't the be all and end all sort of thing. It was, the mess. I mean, it cost money to send a text back then.
Yeah. And they were only any good actually for making phone calls. Not necessarily even sending texts.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you might have a quick text to a friend and be like, we're at this pub on this table sort of thing, but that's kind of it. And you actually just enjoyed that conversation. Whereas now it's like that whole thing of we used to have a rule in, I can't remember which pub it was, the Digby Tap used to have a no phones rule, and when questioned on it, it wasn't because the guy was anti-phone or anti-technology or anything like that. It was literally because he said, if you can get your phone out, then people will Google the answer to arguments. And that was his entire reasoning for it. It's like, it's so much better to have a discussion, a conversation, without just being like, let me just go check. No, actually, you're wrong. Like, well, that's the whole chat for the evening gone then, sort of thing. And it just
I'm sure there was a guy. I mean, this is going back quite a long time now. I'm sure there was a guy. I can't remember. It was in a city. I can't remember if it was London or Manchester or Birmingham or Bristol. It was one of the biggest cities. Who, I think he actually got into a bit of trouble, kind of building regs type trouble.
Yeah.
Because he turned his pub into a Faraday cage. He literally put a copper mesh shop surrounded the entire thing. It was all covered over. It wasn't like it was open and dangerous. It was built in because he basically didn't want people using their phones inside, because he foresaw that people weren't they were on their phones rather than talking to each other.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is the Digby Tap. It was like a 50p fine if you got caught using your phone. So it wasn't enough that anybody got like really like you could use it if you needed to, sort of thing. But it was a 50p fine, and it was self-policing as well, because all the punters knew it. Everyone going in there, even if you were someone that had been caught using your phone, you'd still be like, nah, come on, you've got to pay up. And so you just get peer pressured into paying the fine and being like, okay, I won't use my phone again. And it was a really nice thing to do, and it worked so well, and it's still going on now. And yeah, I think it is quite a nice thing. There's that whole thing of like, I don't like the everyone's got to put their phone in the middle of the pile, and the first person whose phone goes off has to pay the tab. Like, well, no,
not
that's going to be me because my phone is constantly going off, and mostly because it's Jamie reminding me that I'm supposed to be somewhere, and and like that puts negative connotations on it. It's much better to say like, look, everyone just put your phone in your pocket, like, and just kind of say like a joking 50p charge or something like that. Like, don't make it a huge kind of deal, but just be enough that it's like, come on, put it away. Let's have.
It's an incentive not to do it rather than a punishment for doing it, isn't it?
Exactly. But yeah,
The thing's about good company. I mean, I'm old enough to remember times in pubs before phones, or before phones were kind of readily available. I mean, I had my first phone in, I think, 92 or 93, big Motorola brick. So I can remember pubs before then. There were always people who would kind of, be distracted. There'd be somebody, be picking up a newspaper instead of a phone, or they'd go and stand by the arcade machine for an hour and a half. Just ploughing in 10 pences into the arcade machine.
Yeah, I mean, because there's that great image of the fact that, like, when everyone's like, oh, everyone on public transport, or they're all just playing on the phone. Like, well, there's a photo from 100 years ago where everyone was just reading a newspaper, sort of thing. Like, it's no different. What I do find funny though is I remember being in a what pub was it? I think it might have been in Leeds actually, but being in a pub and there being someone sat on the pool table playing a game of pool on his phone, and I was like, dude, seriously? There's a fucking pool table there. But it's the thing is, as much as I not hate on phones, but as much as I like have said like, put your phone away, I am very, very guilty of using it as a crutch, particularly if I'm in a social situation where I'm uncomfortable. I will get my phone out and I'll be like, I'm just pretending that I have friends and I've got things to do, when actually I'm just sending memes to Jamie or whatever. Like, it's so many times. But it's a way of kind of protecting yourself. It is, and I do think that's important, and it's very difficult to discourage unnecessary phone usage without alienating people that are using it because they're genuinely uncomfortable. And it's quite hard to find a way to bring those people into the group, and to let them know that you can join in the conversation, and you can just sit there and be like, not talk, and that's okay as well, without being really patronizing and really blunt and making them feel even more uncomfortable.
Well, I think it's when you see you go to the pub and you see the person sat in the corner, there might be a live band on or something.
Yeah.
And you see the person sat in the corner reading a book.
Yeah.
Or you go into the coffee shop and you see the hipster there on his iMac typing his screenplay to the next thing you're never going to watch. It's there's always that kind of person who's perceived as an antisocial person in a social situation.
Yeah.
And quite often it's just a coping mechanism, like you say. It's just something to be around people, but without feeling the need to do the same thing that they're doing. Or, and it's what's the way? It's like co-play or something like that, where you kind of
body doubling.
No, that's a social engineering type thing, but it's just where two people are doing their own thing but in the same space together.
Yeah,
like one's reading, one's playing a game or something.
Yeah, I used to find that sometimes, particularly when my kids were really small, and it was difficult to be at home when they're making a racket, and they're small and they're crying and whatever, and trying to do things like marking, particularly things like coursework in the days when that was a thing. And I sometimes used to find, because that was difficult, I would go somewhere else. I'd go to the local library and just do marking in the library. Cheaper than going to a cafe, But that just working somewhere else, even though there's actually maybe just as many distractions, because it's not the distraction that I really should be helping with.
Yeah.
Because taking some of the pressure off my wife when she was kind of looking after the children, but just being somewhere else, there was that kind of idea that it wasn't so much a distraction. It was a case of, well, actually, people might be watching, therefore I need to look as if I'm working really hard. So I may as well just work really hard and get this marking done as quickly as possible.
Yeah. See, it's a funny thing because I talked about it the other day as well. I really, really struggle working from home. Yes. I can't. Like I can, but like
it's difficult to do that if you're a doorman or a blacksmith.
Dickhead. But like even working on like housework projects, like home is my safe space. It's where I come to relax. It's where I chill out. Like I go out and I will quite happily work my ass off anywhere else. But when I'm at home, I don't like working. Even doing fun things. Like there's, especially if you put pressure on it. Like if I'm just mucking around and I'm doing some photo editing or whatever, then yeah, I'm doing that and it's a bit of fun and I'm doing it because I feel like doing it at that point. But if there's a time pressure on it, like, oh, you need to get this done because it needs to go out here and do this and do this, then I'm much happier grabbing my laptop and going to the office or even going to the workshop and sitting in the kitchen because that's my work environment.
It's a dedicated space for working rather than a home space.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of like if I come home from work and I know I've got a load of stuff that I need to do, I will not take my boots off until those things are done because as soon as I take my boots off, I'm done for the day. And it's not a case of like, oh, I'm taking my boots off now, I'm really tired. It's I've taken my boots off and my head will physically not let me go out and do those other things unless I put my work boots back on. Like it's weird thing.
Pavlovian conditioning, isn't it? It is just getting yourself to trained into that like habitual behavior. Yeah, I mean that's something that I've really struggled with, specifically the working from home over the last 18 months because this is the only space in the house where I can do work. So I've got my sort of 3 screens and a tablet here in front of me for my home PC, but if I turn myself around slightly, I've then got my 3 screens for work here.
Yeah.
So I'm in literally the same spot. The chair doesn't actually move in its wheelbase. It's just literally turning 15 degrees.
Yeah.
And I'm in work mode or turning back and I'm in home mode. So then it's very difficult to be in that kind of home mentality where I might relax or to be in that work mentality where I've got to be focused and doing my job. And for them to not have any kind of overspill.
Yeah,
you know, it's a really difficult environment to manage then.
Yeah, because that's the thing is if you're sat at your desk and you're like, right, I'm done for the day and I'm going to work on home stuff, but there's an issue that you know is going on at work and you know you're going to have to deal with it the next day. How difficult is it to not just go, I'm just going to do this, and then all of a sudden 3 hours is gone and you've not had an evening.
Well, I mean,
and
you guys know
that's
that
the
from
callback. That's
anyway.
the callback to kind of the working from home. We've got a group. We've got a very large group of people who are saying, "I don't want to go to the office. I can be as productive as I can be more productive at home. I can save 2 hours of commute time each way, so I'm more energized. I can do the same amount of work in less time under my own management." Because I maybe don't have that pressure of a boss that wants to micromanage every second and is constantly saying, where you at on this one? Where you at on that one?
Yeah.
And it's a bit easier to control if it's only coming through a Slack or a Teams chat.
Yeah.
But then you've got those other people who have kind of said, no, I need my separation from home. I can't work at home. I mean, there are those who physically, I think it's probably... I mean, we're seeing nationally there's an increase in house prices in regions where perhaps house prices weren't as big, weren't as high, because people have gone, well, I work in the City of London, I earn a huge amount of money, I now have worked out because of the pandemic that I can actually work from home, and I can do that, my 25 days a month or 20 days a month that I work, I only need to be in the office one day of those. So the other 19 I can be at home. So I may as well have a nice home in Cornwall or some pretty part of Wales or Somerset or Yorkshire or some other bit, and just take the train in and maybe stay overnight for a trip. And I save a huge amount of money. I can have a place that's 2-3 times as big and have some money spare in the bank because of the equity I've gained from the place that I've sold, which was tiny in London.
I mean, I certainly around here, because we've got a couple of train lines that go directly into Waterloo. That's been happening for a long time. And we've got a lot of people that, particularly in Sherborne, that live in Sherborne, that just get on a train and commute into London every day. And the ridiculous thing is they're spending their 2-hour train commute doing work anyway, but they're not getting paid for it. And it's... Yeah, because I 100%, as much as I advocate for everyone to be able to work from home if they want to, I couldn't do it. I used to have conversations with my boss because I had such a long commute and because of the hours that I was working when I was doing the on-call stuff. I quite often got told, like, if you want to work from home tomorrow, you can. I was like, I don't want to because I don't get as much done. Like, I actually want to get this work done, and if I'm at home, I won't do it, because I'm just too easily distracted and I don't enjoy it. But being in that that office space, I was able to be like, despite the fact that there's 100 other people running around and like fires being put out, I can work better there than I can at home in the quiet. Like I'm one of those people that I'm much calmer surrounded by chaos than I am by calm. Like if I'm sat in a room and it's quiet, I go fucking insane. I hate it. I'm much happier being like having a buzz going on around me at all times, because that's when I work. And that's kind of what I mean with the separation between home and work. Like when I come home, I want to be able to sit and chill and relax and enjoy it, and not have to feel like I should be working.
There's a lot to be said for the actual commute itself as well. That decompression between work time and home time, that moment to switch out of work brain and into home or family brain, and vice versa, to switch out of family brain and get into work brain. You know, I've had that before.
My wife missed that when she was teaching from home through a significant portion of the pandemic, and she didn't have that time to kind of decompress between kind of leaving school and getting home. So she found that was quite difficult.
It's difficult to switch your kind of, I don't want to say personality, but the way you interact with other people is often different at home compared to work. I know there's sometimes that kind of bleed over. You know, like it's been half term, so my daughter's been off school for the last 2 weeks, and I know, like, if I'm dealing with work stuff and, you know, meetings or tech calls or whatever, it's a completely different way of having to interact with my daughter. So when she's then at my office door going, "Oh, Dad, what about this?" or "This has just happened," or "Can we have a look at this?" or some, you know, random question about something, I know I've got to interact with her differently to the way I've literally just been interacting with a colleague or a client or something like that. And there is that brief kind of pause and moment where you have to process. You know, and I think that's where something like a commute is more beneficial than people give it credit for.
100%.
And sometimes more detrimental if it's a long commute, because it gives you more time to...
And that's what some people also go down the line of, right, I've got to work from home, so I'm going to have a shed, insulated shed to put in. So my commute is that 3-minute dawdle down the garden, picking at some flower heads.
How big's your garden?
Well, I'm not long enough to take 3 minutes, but it's that, you know, you kind of wander down and you kind of you sniff the roses, you kind of
it's
deadhead the daffodils, or
and I think that is a really important, and that's why I remember being in I can't remember which job it was now, but they gave me a phone that that was on the Vodafone network, And I told them that will not work in this house because the Vodafone signal here just doesn't work. I was like, you need to figure something else out. And they were like, well, why don't you just divert the calls to your personal mobile? I was like, because that's my personal mobile. A, it means I can't call out, and I'm not calling America on my fucking contract. And B, I want to be able to turn my work phone off and not have phone calls. If I divert the calls, then when I turn my phone off, it's still going to ring through to my personal phone, and I don't want that. And I had to do it for, I think it was about a month before it got to a point where I went in and was like, right, I'm not doing another day of on call until you sort this out, because I can't do it. And they ended up getting me a plug-in Wi-Fi router thing that extended the signal. But it was
a perfect example of a finance department dictating the tech requirements of a company.
Yeah.
Rather than just going and getting your pay-as-you-go SIM, on a different network.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous, but yeah, and like I say, we got that sorted, and it was fine after that. But that month was absolute hell because I could never relax. My phone was going off all the time because I'd get like PagerDuty or something like that would ping my phone because someone had swapped things over wrong, or there was an all points bulletin that went out that I'm not even on shift and I'm getting a phone call about it. I'm like, I don't care. Why am I getting this at fucking 4 a.m, sort of thing? And yeah, it's. I think it's very important to be able to have that separation. That's why I don't like the idea of, if I was to ever be in a position where I was starting my own business, and I was making for a living, I wouldn't want my workshop to be here. I would want my workshop to be, even if it's just 500 yards down the road. Ideally, I'd like it to be a drive, because I'd want to be able to get in the car, go to work, leave work, and not worry about it. And even down to like just having a hobby shop, I kind of like the idea of having it somewhere that's not at home, so that I know, like, right, okay, it's Saturday, I'm going to go there, I'm going to work on it. Once I'm done, I'm done. I come back here and I don't have to worry about it again, sort of thing. But I think realistically, I'd probably quite like it to have a nice, dry, usable workshop at home. But
I was going to say, to have an accessible toilet that you can use in your workshop would be a bonus. And
oh yes, wouldn't it ever?
Something that keeps the outside.
Yeah, that would also be good. Just add any one of them.
I think ultimately it's all about having what best suits particular people. Eric in the chat just said, he's worked from home 100% from March 2020 to July 2021, and he really enjoyed going into the office a few days a week. But if he needs to get a lot done, would stay at home. My cousin works for, pretty sure it's Game Workshop.
Oh yeah,
and he's been working at home since the kind of sort of pandemic began, and he's pretty much stayed working from home even though the office is now open again, because he'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, deal with a bunch of emails, jump on his bike at 4 o'clock and go for a decent bike ride. He's mountain biking where he lives. He's got some lovely kind of sort of nature, like seeing the sunrise, depending on the time of year. Then he'll go home, maybe have a kip for a little while, wake back up, and kind of deal with kind of the office starting at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and then take a break, and then do some other stuff. And so for him, he loves breaking up that day into the different chunks, so he can make best use of his energy. But he's got a few people who've worked for him. As soon as the office opened up, they said, we've got to get into the office because we can't work at home, because we've got kids and we've got this and we've got that and we've got those distractions. And I find being at home, 'cause I'm at home all the time. It's the dog's barking at something, and then there's the my kid wants something, or then there's washing to do, and there's always that constant distraction. I mean, as you guys know, kind of sometimes I'm not on the WhatsApp because I'm just busy, and I'm just constantly kind of Like today, I had to change a bulb on one of our cars because it had gone, and I thought it was going to be a 5-minute job. You know, open the bonnet, undo a clip, undo electrical connection, pop the new bulb in, reverse, close up. It best part of an hour to do it because it's just not designed for easy access.
But the thing is now you've spent the hour doing that. I reckon the next time you do it, it's going to take you at least an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I just hope the other side doesn't go. It was the hardest bulb as well. It was just a tiny one tucked away. It's like, fine if you've got a hand that can kind of control.
That's excuses.
Yeah.
That's something
because Kara's just said as well about the fact that she has the occasional sleepover in the shop because it's a long commute, but it's definitely not the same as sleeping at home. So we've done that at one of my old jobs when we were doing overnight deployments. There was a couple where it was a whole system switch over, and it was like a 48-hour deployment, basically changing data centers, and that was done over a weekend. And it was a case of for 48 hours you were in the office for the entire time, and there was airbeds set up in the server room to go and have a kit. But that was not the same as sleeping at home. Like they were like, oh yeah, but you'll have 8 hours off, so you can get as much sleep as you want. I was like, 8 hours off, but I need like a couple of hours to decompress. Then I need to actually get some sleep, and then I need a couple of hours in the morning to sort my shit out. Like that's not gonna fly. Like you can't work like that. And yeah, like I think that's why I quite like having these separate spaces, because it means that I know when I'm at home I can relax, I can chill, I can be at peace, as it were. I think like that's one of the reasons why I was getting so stressed when I was still in IT, is because you were always on call. I could never relax. I was always like every job I ever had, because I was set up to be on call occasionally. I was on call all the time. Like there is no such thing as not on call. If you're able to be on call, you are always on call. And it was, it wasn't fun. I mean, that's why I ended up being in the state that I was in and needing that escape that was very nearly catastrophic. And it was obviously a few other reasons other than just that, but that's why I think I get quite protective over that. That safe space is such an overused term, but that's very much what it is. It's somewhere where I know I can relax, and that's why I try and make this home that for other people as well. Like if I've got a friend here, to be fair, I was very bad at hosting Jamie. I just kind of went, I don't have a room for a bed. There's a floor space there. Go sleep on that. But generally, if I've got a friend in need and they come round, I tend to not go over the top with hosting, but I like to make sure that people feel comfortable. And
what I was going to say is you are genuinely a very good host for that thing. Is you're good at working out what a person might need, and you're good at least anticipating that and making it readily available, or at least easy to ask for, or things like that. It's not a case of like, oh, Steve, I don't suppose you've got a thing I can use. It's just like, all right, so while you're here, there's this over here if you need that. There's this there. There's this there. Yeah. Shout if you need anything. There's got some stuff ready. You're very good at accommodating people's needs in that way. Yeah. You're aware, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things though is I want to have a space where people feel comfortable, not just in terms of feeling like they can come in and they can sit down and have a nice natter. I want a space where people can feel they can come in, they can sit down and not say a single word and not feel awkward. Like
it's just be at home, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and that's 100% it. Is to feel safe, to feel relaxed, to feel at ease. And I think feeling safe is probably the best. I mean, without going into my the weird way my brain works and the protectiveness that I have, like I find it very, very important to make sure that people always feel safe, and feel able to to relax and to be themselves, because I know how valuable it is, because I've been so many times I've been in situations where I don't feel that, and having felt like that for an extended period, and I know what that does to you, and it's not a good thing. So yeah, I think like, and for a lot of people, that's what their workshops are. That's what their their little workbench or whatever is. It's their little safe space. It's where they can go and sit. Like I've talked about it so many times with people. Like the times that I need the workshop the most, I'm not going in there to work on anything. I'm literally just going in there as just I just need somewhere where I can be, where it's just me.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Is it's an element of control, isn't it? It's a place where you don't have to answer to anyone. You don't have to. You're not beholden to anyone. You're not in a space where things are in flux around you or being changed by other people. It's a space where you are in complete control there. You know that when you go into your workshop, you can place something on the floor and it will stay there until you move it.
Yeah.
It's a space where you can be comfortable being you in your entirety.
Yeah.
You're free from judgment. You're free from any responsibility other than just being.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's almost a case of being free to not be in control and to not have to worry about it, to be able to just be, just melt into the sofa or melt onto the workbench or whatever, and just breathe. Like it's amazing how I want to say satisfying, because that's not at all what I mean, but like
it's a comfort, isn't it?
Yeah, like being able to actually just draw a breath and just go and breathe and be like, that's the only thing I need to do right now is breathe. That's it. I don't need to do anything else. I have no other responsibilities or expectations, I suppose is probably a better term, other than to just keep myself alive. And that's all I have to worry about, is I just need to keep breathing, and that's it. Because sometimes even that can be a fucking struggle. And yeah, I think being able to provide that kind of environment for people is extremely important. That's why I quite like doing the one-on-one classes and stuff like that, because there's a real opportunity there to be able to allow people to do that. Like we've had it at festivals. The festival circuit and the festival kind of have a go sessions are very fast paced. It is get them in, get them out, like as quickly as you can. But there's been more than one occasion where someone's come in and they've been in need of a bit of time, and I think it's very important to be able to figure out a way of allowing people to have that time and to make them feel that it's fine, it's okay. Like I don't want to big myself up too much, but I feel like I'm pretty good at doing that, because I'm quite honest about it. I'll be like, you take as much time as you want, because I ain't perfect, and being honest about who I am and my own flaws, and saying like, I fucked this up 1,000 times. You are not going to do anything that I haven't done myself before.
Yeah.
Like, just relax, enjoy it. You're here. You're not here to make the world's best nail. You're here to have an experience. And that's all that you need to do. You need to have an experience. And whatever that is for you, that's it. So you've already achieved your goal. You've had an experience. Like, all you can do now is improve on it. Like it's fine. Like, it's the idea that you have to make a perfect nail because you've paid for a class to make a nail. It's ridiculous. You've paid to have a go at a thing, and
you can't pay to have a day's experience in something and expect to pick up 10 years worth of knowledge
exactly
in one day.
Yeah. You can't expect to pick up a day's worth of knowledge in a day.
Not with you teaching.
Yeah, exactly. but that's the thing, is like you're literally just there to have an experience. Like, you're not doing this isn't a job interview. This isn't a trial. You're here to enjoy yourself. Whether you make something or you don't make something, like, you could burn every piece of metal. As long as you enjoy yourself, that's all that matters to me. Like, that's my job. Like, I am not here to make you a blacksmith. I'm here to stop you from hurting yourself. That's it. That's where my responsibility ends. I think that's something that a lot of people forget.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, because obviously you and I first met in person when I came down to the forge.
No, we didn't. We met fucking years ago. What are you talking about?
It feels like it. It definitely feels like it. But
technically, it is years ago since that.
Well, yeah, this is true.
Well, yeah, it is now. Yeah, it definitely is. But I suppose, at 2 hours 15 minutes in, introducing you, Steve, from Moonshine Metalworks, and the Forge as resident blacksmith in the room. The fact that, not including the guys in the chat, the folks in the chat rather, who are also blacksmiths, the one speaking at the minute. But you gave me my first blacksmithing experience by me and my brother coming down for a day's kind of.
I miss Rube.
Me too. We'll have him on at some point, I think.
Yes.
But to have a day's dicking about in the forge with you, you know, and that was a really, really fun and rewarding experience for us. That basically sent us both out getting set up on our own little setups.
Yeah,
and it was, it's kind of a sort of a perfect love story in that sense, that you sort of went, look, here's some basic techniques, here's some stuff to get you going, have a play, dick around. Here's stuff that keeps you safe. Here's stuff, the little tips and tricks, because I know you're going to start setting stuff up on your own because I can see the glint in your eye.
Yeah.
So here's the bit that you need to know that I wouldn't normally teach other people on a day session, but I know you're going to go and do it anyway, so blah. And it was that kind of tailored experience to us that then set us on a path.
Yeah. I really appreciate that you didn't say the thing that I thought you were going to say, which is I made you feel very relaxed at the very beginning of the day by turning up 10 minutes late.
I mean, anyone who knows
you... I'm here.
Anyone who knows you will know that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
but I think there's I think there's a kind of an essence here. The maker community has increased in size, I think. Or certainly it's become more open. And I think that's because more and more people are realizing two things. One, that making is a great way of releasing kind of creativity that perhaps has been pressed down, not nurtured for a long time. Yeah, it's like the drawing I've been doing for the last year and a bit. Yeah, I didn't do any drawing for the previous 35 years before that, because it's kind of like,
which is mad when you look at what you're doing now.
You kind of you don't you had to go the academic route, so art had to go, so therefore no drawing. Yeah, obviously hadn't been a kind of important enough part of my life. So that kind of creativity, you're a scientist, you're not creative. Well, actually, scientists have to be very creative, but that's another sort of discussion. Yeah. But there's that kind of release the creativity that is actually very good for us to do that and to be creative, and whatever it is, whether it's painting by numbers or whether it's heating metal up in a forge and changing its shape, or whether it's knitting or rug making or any one of 1,000 things that I can't think of right now. But it's also it's that element of it is that release from the kind of the stresses of everyday life, whether that's family ties and the pull of the family and what needs to be done, whether it's the shelf that needs tightening up at home, or the vacuum cleaner cable that needs replacing, or you've got to buy a new vacuum cleaner, you've got to kind of decide which you're going to do, or changing the light bulb on a car, or the thinking about work, having that kind of there's that client that's been a real pain, or there's there's that group of students, if you're a teacher, who what do I do about that class and that lesson? Or, oh no, I'm going to have to call those parents that are really horrible. Or a zillion other things that are just stressful parts of our life, and kind of making whatever form it takes a fantastic escape from that. And it just gives us that ability to release a different part of our brain and the chemicals that go with that.
And I think like one of the other reasons why the maker community has grown so much is very much like you say, it's because people are wanting to reconnect with that creativity that was lost in early. I mean, I don't want to start a rant about education, because I think all three of us could quite happily rant on that for another 6 hours. But
there is always an NDQ education segment in the podcast.
Yeah, I avoided one about how the number of homeschool kids has massively gone up since the pandemic. But I'll let that one go today.
But as well as that, it's the fact that because of things like YouTube, like Instagram, like we're saying about people wanting to actually share this craft or these crafts, there is much less gatekeeping going on. So there was always, especially like blacksmithing is a perfect example. People have these preconceived ideas about what you must be to be able to be a blacksmith. You know, you must
big male beard.
Yeah. You've got to be this big burly guy, like, and all of this. Like one of my favorite blacksmiths is a petite woman who does pin-up models in her spare time. Like if you were to look at her, she would not think for a second that she's a blacksmith. But she's fucking good at what she does.
Stonking good.
Yeah. Really fucking good at what she does. Like Al, as in my Al, Big Al. Like I've seen the jewelry that he makes. And he's this fucking huge guy. And he's making this tiny little stuff. That's why like I fucking love doing the little tiny stuff, because it's the exact opposite to how most people would think that I work. They're going to take one look at me and be like, oh yeah, he's a big burly dude. Like I fucking love sewing. Like it's something that I find really enjoyable. One of my first ever making projects was when I was like 14 and I made a hat. And I think now there is starting to be a real breakdown of the expected roles that people should play, and obviously that, you know, with gender is a very I was gonna say popular, that's not the word I mean, is very in the public eye at the moment. The discussions around gender and gender identity, and the perceived kind of expectations of gender, and because that's being broken down, people are then going, well, actually, why can't I do this other thing that I want to do, and why can't I do this thing that I want to do? And there's less stigma to doing something that doesn't necessarily fit if you don't fit that stereotype. And I think that's fucking great. Like there is really nothing worse than seeing someone like go at the festivals, having some little girl come up and be like, oh, that's really cool, I want to do that. And hearing a parent go, oh, you can't do it because that's for big burly men. Like, fuck off. No, it's not. And I've genuinely had to go at parents about it before and said to little girls like, no, you should come and do this, and like taken them to one side and shown, like, got some plasticine out and shown them what we're doing.
Going on,
yeah, because they're interested. It doesn't matter who they are or what they are, what their background is, what anything is. If they're interested in it, that's all that matters. And the fact that more and more people are starting to think like that, and more people are starting to realize that, and there are less and less people that are gatekeeping things. And when someone is gatekeeping something, they're being called out on it. And I think that's a really important thing. If you see someone gatekeeping something, call them out on it. Like I will fully admit I have done it before, like completely subconsciously, and I've gone, yeah, that's not really good enough to, you know, you shouldn't be doing this if you're doing that sort of thing. And then gone, actually, why not? Why am I being a dickhead? And because that's the other thing is a lot of people think that you shouldn't be calling yourself out on stuff. It's like it's okay. We all make mistakes. We all fuck up.
Yeah.
And
well, that's the thing. Because everyone makes mistakes. It's making mistakes isn't what defines you as a person. It's how you deal with making mistakes.
Yeah,
that is what defines you as a person.
Yeah, it's very much that, and I think it's better to make a mistake and admit it, and go, actually, you know what, guys? Yeah, sorry, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, rather than going, oh no, I never make mistakes, and trying to bury that mistake and hoping that no one ever sees it, because it's always going to come out in the end. Everyone fucks up and everyone gets caught out for it. But
the thing is, like, if you as a person make a mistake that is in the public eye, whether that's at a festival and there are 3 people watching, or whether it's down the pub with your mates, or whether it's out in the park with a couple of strangers walking past, you know, if you make a mistake, your mistake is going to be a teachable moment for both yourself and for others.
Yeah.
You know, whoever sees that mistake, and whether that is a case of you going, oh shit, I made a mistake, I'm going to own that mistake, learn from it, do something different, try and rectify it, blah blah blah, or whether that's you trying to cover it up, make sure that there isn't one. You know, if you own the mistake and try and make good from it, whether that's by learning or trying to redo what you were trying to do or whatever, people can learn from your experience in that. They can learn what not to do, and they can learn how you correct it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of like properly accomplished people are not very good at doing things right first time, but they're very good at correcting their mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, that's an Adam Savage quote. It's not about being good at making something. It's about being good at hiding the mistakes that you make while making the thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't own your mistakes, those people just see that you made a mistake and then try to cover it up. And that's where the learning stops for everyone.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, every advancement in human culture has come from someone doing something that wasn't the norm, someone fucking up, someone making a mistake, someone going something and going, oh, well, that was a mistake, but that's worked. And it like we develop, we evolve by making mistakes, realizing that we've done them, and sharing that knowledge.
Exactly.
Like can you imagine if no one ever shared the knowledge of, like, oh, if you eat that berry, then it tastes bad and you die. Like, we just hide that. Don't tell anyone that he did that. Like, no, that's what you do. You share this knowledge, and it helps everyone grow. And yeah,
I mean, we're all natural educators, the 3 of us here, and half the chat.
Yeah,
at least half the chat.
Yeah, but it's important to kind of to be able to recognize that you make a mistake, and also to not demonize yourself for it. Like, I've done things that are very bad that I genuinely, like, from, in fact, so here's a perfect example. I was thinking about this earlier today. I used to work at a little country pub. I was behind the bar one night, and someone came in, and we had 2 separate bars. We had the public bar where you could come in in your work clothes, and then the lounge bar where it was a bit nicer and a bit posher. And I'd been like, because the bar ran between the 2, like, through the wall and everything. And I was serving away and went to serve someone in the lounge bar, came back over, and I'd been talking about wines with the person in the lounge bar. Came back over, and the person in the public bar asked for a glass of Merlot. I was like, Merlot, and kind of joked about it. And I was thinking about it this morning. This was when I was 18, so this is 17 years ago. And I was thinking about it on the drive up to the market today. I still feel guilty about it. I still feel like I was an asshole. But at the time, the thing is, the ridiculous thing is, at the time, I thought they were taking the piss. I thought they knew that it was Merlot, not Merlot, and they were just doing it as a bit of like, oh, I'm from the country, I'm taking the piss sort of thing. And it was only after I'd taken the piss that I realised that it was a genuine mistake. They didn't know. It's spelt Merlot.
And if you've never heard it, you've only ever read it, then you wouldn't know that it's got French origins or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing is that sort of thing is that's stuck with you, and that's influenced the way you interact with people since then.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like I know that I should forgive myself for that because it was a genuine mistake, and it's not something that I should carry as a burden. It's something that I should learn from and move on from, because I'm sure that the person that was the person in question has no memory of that even happening now. Like that, this was 17 years ago. I'm sure they've moved on. But yeah, it's something that it made me realize from then, like maybe I should make sure that people are joking before joining in on the joke sort of thing. But I'm still going to feel bad about it. But it's realizing that I don't need to feel bad after every time I do something like that. Like everyone fucks up, and that's okay. And like, yes, if you're a good person, you're going to feel bad when you do something bad to someone, but it's not the end of the world. You don't need to beat yourself up over it.
Well, it's acknowledging the difference between that was a mistake because you made an assumption and you were wrong about the assumption.
So it's intent, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say is if you'd intended to take the piss out of someone, then it's a different matter. But I mean, that's then getting into the ethics of whether or not that makes you a good person or a bad person, or whether it was a good event or a bad event, or things like that. Getting into the intent of why you did that. Chances are you've educated them that not everything is pronounced the way it sounded, or the way it's spelled, rather. I also can't words. But yeah, that might have then influenced them to ask how the wine's pronounced if they've never said it before. Yeah. For something different.
Yeah. No, I I think kind of it's a weird one. Like I think like John's just said in the chat, like
I was just reading the same.
Realizing that you still think about these things, I think is just it's kind of proof that you're a good person. If you remember shit like this and you still feel bad about it, it just shows that you've learned your lesson and you're still aware of what you did was not necessarily right. So I think it just shows that you're still not a dick, basically.
We've got a just point on the kind of following on from kind of Merlot. Our friend Rare Smith has said that the general French is you don't pronounce the last letter.
Oh, Andy, that is glorious,
beautiful. Yes, well done. I approve very much of that. I genuinely, I was about to say, gents, I think it's probably time we went to. I was like, wait, no, it's not my podcast. I'm not running this.
Well, it probably is time to start thinking about the things that have been grabbing our attention, whether that's individual things. It can be anything: video, book, things you've been working on, things you're working towards, or coming up. It doesn't really matter. Steve, guests always go first. So
thank you very much. This is because I'm never quite sure because I do listen, but I don't pay attention.
We've noticed.
Hey, is it?
There's no order, by the way. We don't.
I was gonna say So if I do,
it's not Sag or Jazz.
Yeah. If I do one, can I then come back like after you've done and do?
You can do five. We tend to go. You can do.
It's just
that's what I mean. It's like, should I be doing them all at once?
Or... Yeah, go all at once. We tend to kind of go that way.
Okay, because I've definitely forgotten 3 of them already. So, would you have me any other way?
No, not at all. We're not expecting you to have remembered all of the things that have caught your attention, because there's been 1,500 of them just in this 2.5-hour podcast.
This is why when fuck off. This is why when we record ours, we have to cut out like 10 minutes of audio, because the 3 of us are all going, shit. Who was I gonna? I wrote this down somewhere. Hang on, I've got it written on a post-it over there. The first one, which caught my attention mid-recording of the other podcast, was the what? Fuck off, Alan. Squirrel.
Squirrel, not Squirtle.
Squirrel. It's one syllable. Yes, Terrier. And his amazing micro spoon, which is so cute and adorable and fucking amazing, and I love it.
And another example of a giant grizzly Goliath making something super tiny and intricate.
Yeah. And like, I love his.
I don't know how either.
Yeah, like it's fucking huge. And he makes these tiny little intricate, beautiful, but like I love him so much. That was. I'm so tired. The other. Fuck off. The other thing was the one that I sent you. So I'm basically repeating my spiffs from. I'm not going to do that, because if you want to know who the other thing that I'd sent to them was, go listen to
2/3 folk. Oh no, the other one.
I need to. I'm going to have to get my phone out in a minute to find someone else. So I am going to come back and redo a thing. But I have I've stopped listening to. Well, I've not stopped listening to, but I go through stages of listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks, listening to music, and I'm in a audiobook and music
phase
at the moment. Thank you, that's the word.
Phase works, yeah.
At the moment, so I've been listening to. I've basically just been re-listening to all my audiobooks, and it's weird how comforting they are. There is a thing within the neurodivergent sphere about how people with certain neurodivergencies like familiar things because they're comforting, which is very much how I find certain books. The ones that have really stood out recently, which again I think I've talked about on other shows, is the Bobaverse series, which there are 4 books out at the moment. The 4th book is my least favorite of them, but still definitely worth it. Like, I really enjoyed it the first time round. It's just on the 4th time round, it wasn't quite as good. But the Bobaverse series is really, really good. Genuinely enjoyed that. The other one was Hail Mary by Alan Weir.
That was very good.
Yeah. What did I say?
You said Alan Weir, but I think you've just seen
it's
Inside Alan pop up.
It's because Inside Alan's there, and he's just big.
That was an excellent book.
It was so good, and like there was a point where I welled up, and but yeah, really, really good book. One of the other ones, which is I don't think I've actually talked to you about it, Jamie, but written by written by Hank Green of internet fame, is the second one is a Wonderfully Foolish and Dead. Oh, fuck, I'm gonna have to find it. Hang on. Just fill this with general chat about something else.
Andy, what's been grabbing your attention?
An absolutely remarkable thing. That's it. Thank you.
Fuck's sake, Steve.
Yes. So written by Hank Green. It's a really good book. This is like the 3rd time that I've listened to it, I think. And there's been a few things where the main protagonist, who is she's not an anti-hero as such, which she's not an anti-hero at all, but she's not a traditional hero. She's very honest about her own flaws, and I was listening to it earlier on. I was like, huh, this is very familiar. And there's a lot of stuff with her that I identify with. Mostly all the bad stuff as well, which is
sounds
great.
about right.
Yeah. But yeah, really, really good, fun, interesting book. The second one is good as well. I'm not that fussed about the second one, but I definitely think you should listen to the first one. And there was another one as well, but I've forgotten what that is. So you guys go.
Steve, the host. Go on then, Andy.
I'll go next. There's 3 things for me this week. Apart from getting a haircut, as you may not be able to see. Thursday saw the 3rd episode of Britain's Best Woodworker on Channel 4.
That was the other thing.
You mean the Joe Show?
Yeah.
With Joe. I won't spoil it. I think people should watch it. The third one, certainly, I think Duncan said the other day that the third one has been the best so far, and it was definitely a very good episode. So it's worth watching. Don't get caught up in the whole thing about it. Oh, they're not the best woodworkers because they're mostly just woodworking enthusiasts who are only starting out on their journey, which has been plaguing the woodwork groups on Facebook, which is just it's TV. It's a bunch of people who volunteered to go on a show, which a lot of people don't.
Yep.
Who are working under the pressure of TV situations, which is not easy. And the time pressures plus production pressures and all those sorts of things, and they're trying to do the best they can with the materials that aren't necessarily the ones they're necessarily used to, and the tools they're not necessarily used to, and all the rest. And I think it's been an enjoyable show, and if it gets more people interested in woodworking, then it's a fantastic thing. So definitely watch this last week's. That's worth watching. And then this morning, today's been quite a good day on the YouTube front. There was a very good video came out early this morning showing the production of a polygonal horse from a certain German prop shop.
Our very own.
Yeah, definitely for me a 1x speed watch.
Yes,
as most people have mentioned, we've mentioned many times. I tend to watch most videos at 2x speed. And the good ones get watched at 1x, and this is definitely a 1x speed.
It is a very good video.
Yeah. So that's for those who haven't caught the hints. That's it's Caroline's. There will be links in the show notes later in the week. But
I'm on fire today.
Doing a horse. Yeah. So that was good. Now there was another video came out, and I really liked the style of the videography. It was about blacksmithing. Somebody reading from sections from a book with kind of then smithing happening in the background.
I wonder who that could be.
Yeah, it just came out this afternoon. Kind of forge type videos. Again, another 1x speed videos.
I think the more Steve's kind of tilts his head down, the more he kind of flashes off the. God, I shouldn't do that. Knock the white
forge headwear. Yeah. So yes, the latest video produced by our guest here this evening from the Forge.
Steve Lee Housington Smythe.
Thank you very much.
Very much worth watching. So that's my kind of 3. Jamie, what about you?
Well, I mean, I can't compete with those because, I knew you'd be shouting those out. And you do a better job than I did because that pun was glorious. For me, I've been recovering. I was at some dickheads last week that just, I was there for quite a while and was knackered. And so, it was a long weekend last week, so I thought I'd chill out a little bit this week. So I've been doing a little bit of leatherwork stuff, prototyping some bits for a thing from another podcast.
Yeah.
Treasure Trade. Yes, I need to get
doing
a
little
speed
bit
on
of,
that one.
A little bit of graphicsy work, a little bit of just like little odd jobs and stuff. Fixed a parcel shelf speaker and bits of just pottering, taking it a little
pottering.
slower.
Nice.
Pottering, yes.
Yeah, I
Take
had,
a little time
I
out.
had to fix a vacuum cleaner cable this week. At one point, I thought I'm going to video this because it'll be a good little video. It'll be easy enough to do. And then I kind of got into it. It was like, no, not videoing this. This cannot be a video.
Yeah,
This is going to be a bodge.
I've given up with trying to even think about videoing stuff now. Like unless there's a specific reason that I want to video it, it's just not going to happen. And to be fair, even then, like it's so few and far
just ends
between.
up in our WhatsApp chat.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's so few and far between that I actually get to work on a project that I'm just not going to video it. I just want to get the project done.
I thought of videoing my Fools with Tools treasure trade build this year. I know there's still time to do that, but it isn't going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. It'll go down to the wire again.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, mine. It's quite good knowing that because of the way that they've done it. It's the fact that it's going to be like within the continent, so I haven't got to worry about shipping it out to like Dan or something like that. Although I'm pretty sure if I'd got Dan, I would have had the present sorted because Murphy goes like 3 times a day, so I could have just sent that. I really hope he's still in the chat. But yeah, no, I very nearly started talking about my treasure trade then and realised that no, because
don't do that.
It's a secret thing, and
yeah,
you'd be breaking the rules of your own podcast, Steve.
It's gonna be, I didn't make the rules. I never get to make the rules. John makes the rules because I am not responsible enough. It's not even a lie.
I didn't
discombobulate it.
I'm very much that already.
Yeah.
That thing where I tell you no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that.
Disagree.
That works.
The other thing that I have been working. Jesus, words. Thank you. The other thing that I've been working on that I wanted to mention is so as well as working on the treasure trade, as well as working on the treasure trade, I've also been working on a couple of axes. I mentioned this again on the other podcast. One of them is going to my good friend Steve Pellegrino in exchange for a knife, which is beautiful. The other one, so I kind of assume that everyone listens to not that everyone listens to me. I kind of assume that everyone listening to this already knows me because it's just that I'm just looking at the people in the chat. But for those whose first time this is listening to me, firstly, I apologize profusely. And secondly, I've spoken quite a few times about mental health and my own struggles with it, and friends of mine who have struggled with it. I tend to be quite open about it. To a certain extent, I don't go into a huge amount of details on the podcasts and stuff unless I'm asked a direct question. But if anybody ever wants to chat, I'm always quite happy to talk about what I've gone through. So because of that, I'm a big supporter of mental health charities and people getting help when they need to get help, because I think there's far too much of a stigma around it about getting help. So the other acts will be the 10th acts that I've made, and I always said like after 10 I might actually be at the point where I could start considering to sell them. But I'm not taking orders. Please don't message me asking me for an axe because I'm not going to make it. But this one, I've decided that once I finished it, providing it's actually saleable, I'm going to put it up for auction on Instagram. Stop playing with that. I knew you were going to break something. But yeah, I'm going to put it up for auction on Instagram with the proceeds going to probably Mind, the mental health charity. So that should hopefully be probably the end of this month. I'm going to try and time it for around payday this month.
So for those still watching, if it is anywhere near as good as the one that you made me as my birthday present, sorry to brag. But yes, it is a stonkingly beautiful thing.
Thank you. Yeah, well, it's kind of based off the Land Rover axe pattern, but it's a little bit longer. So yeah, I'm hoping it should turn out to be quite a nice looking axe. But yeah, I'm going to put that up for auction because yeah. Well, the thing is, it's one of those where it's like I'm making the axe because I enjoy making the axe and I enjoy the process and I enjoy the final results. I'm not looking to make money out of it. But it just feels like this would be a good opportunity to potentially raise a bit of money for a good cause. So yeah,
it's going to be a perfect opportunity to raise some good money for a good cause and encourage your good friends to fight amongst themselves in competition on Instagram.
Exactly.
Obviously, we'll promote that when it happens.
Thanks,
to our extensive audience.
Yes. Yeah, there's at least 2 people fighting in the comments already, so I'm quite looking forward to it.
I mean, there's 3 of you, include Rasmus.
You never include Rasmus. Yeah, I was just about to fucking wrap up. Then it's not my podcast, Steve.
I mean, by all means, you're welcome to.
Well, do you want to tell
where people can find you?
I know Jamie's already mentioned it, but do you want to tell, as I kind of wrapping up, do you want to tell folks where the best places they can find you?
Yes,
and is it in all of the usual social media platforms?
It's almost
yes, you can't say that all the time. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I am Moonshine Metalworks on. I was going to say everywhere, but I'm Moonshine Metalworks on Instagram and YouTube, but I haven't uploaded to YouTube in about 4 years.
Anyone who does check out Steve's YouTube needs to check out the cake knife video at a minimum.
I'd forgotten about that one. I did enjoy that one, actually. So this is the thing, is I want to make more videos like that where it's just a bit
Steve videos.
Yeah. If you would prefer to see a slightly more professional side of me, then the
Forge,
yeah. Then the Forge on YouTube, or the Forge UK on YouTube, where we've got a few videos up there. We have just released a video, as Andy said, talking about the 7 skills of blacksmithing. Rasmus knows at least one of them. Well, Rasmus has heard of at least one of them anyway. But that is because we just released a book on blacksmithing as well, which is available for order on Amazon now.
There have been some slight shipping delays, but it is still absolutely worth a pre-order.
Yes, I managed to get my copy on Friday and then leave it in the workshop, so I've not actually read it yet because I'm an idiot. But yeah, so that's out. So go. Feel free to go and check that out. That's obviously my boss. It's not me, but yeah, he's an alright dude as well.
He's definitely alright.
You're responsible for the videography on that YouTube channel.
Yes, yeah. So all the
probably a lot of the photography in the book, I would imagine.
Yeah. No, actually, we had professional photographers for all of the book stuff. Yeah.
Come on, Jamie. That's been mentioned several times on the Fools with Tools podcast.
Yeah. And that's
since then.
That's the other place you can find me, is on the Fools with Tools podcast.
Yes.
Which I would recommend if you haven't listened to us before, don't bother going all the way back. But the last episode we recorded, episode 201, is probably a good place to start. We have a good chat. It'll be out on Wednesday, maybe. No, Al's editing, so it'll be out on Wednesday. It'll be fine. And Wednesday evening.
It'll be out Tuesday night if it's out.
But yeah. So yeah, Moonshine Metalworks, The Forge, or Fools with Tools. That's me. I'm done.
On that note,
I mean,
and
all we can say is thank you, Steve. Thank you for coming in and
absolutely
giving us a good giggle tonight.
I've had a lot of fun.
It's been a really good chat. So we'll say goodbye to folks. Everyone knows where they can find Jamie and I in all the usual places.
They probably found us to get here.
It's a very good point. Yes, exactly. And it's always in the show notes, which are always on YouTube. Pretty much. Yeah, that's the best thing to do. Yeah, it's. I mean, crikey, what time is it? It's nearly midnight. So
Andy, you're making me look good at this point.
Right, well, I'm going to say goodbye. So if you two want to say goodbye, we'll have to try and find the end broadcast button.
Yeah, well, thank you, folks. And next week, something.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, next week we've got Jacob from Other Dog Designs, if I remember
Also to be
correctly.
found in the chat for this video.
Yes, who is in the chat right now, and is the creator of our logo.
Yes, indeed.
Ah,
Good chap.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Awesome.
he's a good chap.
Right.
So, right, good night, folks.
Okay, folks.
Bye, guys.